HD, we have missed you so much. Can't wait to hear how you guys have been. It is time, though, for FNCS Major 3. The European action is going to be closer than ever before. And to talk through it all, I have got Levin2k and Mini Miner. Oh, guys, have you missed me as much as I've missed you, Mini?
Yeah, really. That was actually what I was going to say. I really missed you a lot. It's great to be back, and I'm happy to be back together again with Frankie.
You had so much time to rehearse that, Levin.
What Mini said. I'll go over his vibe there. Yeah, we missed you a little bit. Just a little bit.
Let's move swiftly on, shall we, to the lobby list, see who's playing in Group 1. And I'm very excited to see that Thomas HD has gone full Danish again, boys. With Sky and Scroll this time, missed out on a spot in the Fortnite Global Championships in Lyon by 1 place in Major 2, but he's determined to go further this time, Levin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was soul-crushing how things sort of ended for him, especially because he was on seemingly such a good team last season, Mini Miner. But I think he's landed on a team that you could argue maybe has an even higher potential, a higher upside. Coming into this year when we knew Thomas wasn't going to be training up with Queasy, a lot of people looked at Sky and Scroll and went, hey, man, if you want to play with an all-Danish trio, this is your best option, right? 2 rising stars in the Fortnite scene. And now it's finally happened. I'm actually quite excited about the prospect of these guys going into this round.
Yeah, and from the perspective of Sky and Scroll, of course, they played really, really well last Major with iDrop, and then when it came to the Grand Finals, they just didn't quite live up to that hype, if you like, and it always seems to be a bit of a running theme with iDrop not quite performing in those Grand Finals, so now, of course, they're here with Thomas HD. Really interested to see what they can do. They've done pretty well so far. They got 5th in one of the divisional cups, and in the other one, they missed out by, in Thomas HD fashion, by a single point, so it was close for them this season as well, but they're landing back at that Rolling Blossom split as well, so the guys know it really well, and Scroll is no longer on those scroll wheel build binds, so can we even call him Scroll anymore?
I think we're going to have to, Mini Miner, for the purposes of Major 3. Maybe we'll look at that for Chapter 7. Let's move on to another trio, not necessarily looking like they're going to have the Danish chemistry because, well, they're not Danish for a start. Trulex, Teeny, and Scooby. This is an odd one for me. It feels like Teeny is a player with so much potential. Trulex, we know he has it. He's a LAN veteran, Levin, but things haven't really clicked for this trio so far.
Yeah, not the Danish connection you're looking for, but maybe they can form a Balkan one, right? That's where these guys sort of reside. And I think that the big thing with these guys is that ultimately, on paper, Mini, you have 3 players who are top-level performers who have done it on big stages, especially in the case of Teeny and Trulex, players you expect to see at the Global Championships, but it hasn't quite clicked. And I think the reality is if you're familiar with these guys as players, on paper, Teeny and Trulex fundamentally play different styles of Fortnite. They're 2 very different players, and I've always been a big proponent of optimizing your players, looking to, play in a way that specializes and optimizes for the strengths and weaknesses of your best players. And I think right now it just doesn't align in this trio, and it's part of why we've just not seen the success from them this season.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a last-ditch attempt here from Teeny and Scooby. They play with different options throughout the year. Nothing's quite clicked for them. They've done okay throughout the year. And now picking up Trulex, I'm expecting big things from them because of their names, but their performances haven't necessarily been that great. 97th in the play-in, so they only just about snuck into the group stages here today. Although I do expect a lot of big things from Trulex here. We have a bit of a heal-off meta at times as well, so we know that he can perform well under those conditions. And if this team do make the major finals and, of course, make globals, I'm still expecting big things because of that experience.
Well, they're uncontested at Foxy Floodgate tonight, so good luck to Trulex and the boys. Let's look at the lobby list again, because we've got a few big names here. Some of those we'll be talking about later. If we take a look at page number 2, Shark has teamed up with Combeck and Blacker in place of Mixon. Now, they've placed very similarly in Major number 2, just outside the top 20. And I think that this could be a trio to watch, Mini Miner.
Yeah, I mean, Blacker and Combeck have, of course, played with Mixon for a while. That was a trio that we knew could perform very well and make these major finals. Now they've picked up Shark, who is a very, very exciting player in the scene. I've seen people saying he's the EU Peterbot. Not quite sure about that yet, but he's a young, talented fragger that can definitely bring bring a lot of firepower to this team. And I think it's almost the perfect fit here, Levin. He's teaming up with some veterans of the scene who know how to make major finals, so it seems like the perfect step up for Sharp right now.
Well, yeah, my biggest hope is Comic and Blaha can light up the group stage like they did last major, right? Those guys looked phenomenal, and then it sort of, you know, fell apart in the finals. I actually want to almost apologize. I was one of the people who was early on the Shark train, and I think we sort of built him up to a level that he couldn't quite match, right? This is still a very young player, a very talented player, and I think on this team, settling in, he's got an opportunity here to continue to learn his craft and ply his trade, and hopefully these guys can surprise some people come the final, if they make it.
Well, let's talk about one last trio before we head over to our commentators. And I'm curious about this one. I think Mini Minor, me and you are on the same page. We were surprised at the end of Major 2 when Reason and Savage parted ways with Vidil. What did you make of that? Because now he's with Cringe and Volko.
Yeah, I mean, this whole trio composition I'm a little bit confused about. Of course, Vidil playing with Reason, Mr. Savage, of course, splitting there in some difficult situations, so a little bit of confusion there. And for me, it's a lot of confusion about Cringe and Volko because they were playing with Kiduo last major, and they placed 12th overall, so really solid performance from these guys who seem to have been on that sort of upward trajectory when it comes to Volko and Cringe in terms of their ability in this region. And then they split. They dropped Kiduo, so now they've got Vidil. He does bring a little bit of experience, Levin, but to me, it seems like they're sort of starting from square one again.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't surprised because, you know, to spare people the drama, I'm sure everyone was paying attention to it at the time. It feels like a century ago almost, right? So I wasn't surprised to see Vidil not playing with Savage and Reason anymore. But if you're Cringe and Volko, it's Vidil, right? And I know a lot of people were questioning his ego and how much he rates himself. But at the end of the day, he's somewhat valid in that he believes he's a top player, and he is. It's Vidil at the end of the day, and if you're two of those guys, you're going to take the chance to play with him. And I think when you look at this lobby in particular, they have some of the most experience, not just in general in the game, but just playing in set lobbies as a trio. That alone, I think, should ride them through to that major final.
Well, they came third in the most recent performance evaluation, so it's looking like we could expect big things from this trio in the lobby tonight. But right now, let's head over to the voices of the lobby. They are the best, Taco and Takata.
Thanks so much. But Frankie, there is so much excitement building because everybody knows this is the last stop, essentially, before the Global Championship. So many of these players don't want to try and take their chances qualing later on for the finals. Takata, they want to be in this grand final, so it starts here and right now.
It really does, and like you said, there's a lot of excitement, but there's also been some tragedies along the way, and one of them specifically that stands out is what happened to Revscar. Now, he actually announced that he was going to be quitting / taking a break, and that's because in the last 2 majors, he didn't qualify from groups, but it wasn't just a regular non-qualification. He was one placement spot off qualifying back-to-back in the last 2 majors, but now he's screwed up with Monty Skyjump. They're landing at Crime City. This is the last opportunity that they have to make it to the Global Championship, so, you know, hopefully they can make it happen this time around in Group 1.
Hey, and obviously they're hoping to be a little bit more revitalized. It'll be exciting to see what they actually get up to in the game itself, but also for everybody back at home watching, I want to give you guys a friendly reminder of what the format is going to consist of, because we're looking for game winners and then top 5 in consistency. So for the 5 matches taking place today, 5 players that get the victory royales, you're good to go for the finals. But that's all from us for right now, Takata. Right now we got to get back to the desk.
Thank you very much. And if that wasn't exciting enough, we have 2 big favorites for the Major 3 Blade of Champions in the lobby tonight. First up, Marius, Pixie, and Vanya. I don't feel like these guys need any introduction, given that they are our Major 2 champions. But Levin, are they still looking like the favorites this time round?
Absolutely. I think they're still one of the very best teams. I think if you were to look at sort of the in-between season we had and a lot of this season, they've looked still like one of the best teams. Not much has changed for them in terms of just anything really, right? Playstyle, POI, everything seems to have lined up for them to continue to be as successful as they have been in the recent past.
Yeah, and they have been doing really well this season as well. They, of course, won the first Divisional Cup finals. They only played 5 games in that Div Cup final as well. I think they just went and had their dinner after 5 games because they got 3 wins, so they won in such a little amount of games, which is really impressive. And they're continuing that. Like you mentioned, they're still at Flooded Frogs. They today have a little bit of a contestation to the west, so I think it just seems like everything is setting up for success for them right now. And I think a lot of the other teams in the lobby will be looking at Flooded Frogs and thinking, okay, maybe we can try and go there because these guys are almost guaranteed to go through.
Well, Miniminer, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Supernova Academy as well, because that is the drop spot of Fredoxy, Tino, and Pablo Wingo. And these guys, it felt like they took us by surprise in Major 2, dominating their way to second place. And they dominated in the play-ins, Miniminer.
Yeah, and when you look at the names on the screen, I mean, we know how talented each of these individuals are, but I think a lot of people, myself included, were very, very surprised as to how well they did last Major. They were leading at one point, they were doing incredibly well out of their drop spot, Mars Meadows. Now, of course, Mars Meadows no longer in the game. Supernova Academy is their new home, but it doesn't seem to have sort of stunted their growth in terms of a team level. They just seem to be so well composed. They seem to know each other's play styles really well, and I think it's really benefiting them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, you could talk so long about what makes these guys so good. But I think for me, when I look at, you know, my Fortnite philosophy and how I look at it, I've always believed that you get your best players and you just empower them, right? The players are the most talented, the players who we show up to watch and we watch all their content. You empower those players, give them the confidence to shine. And when you look at each three of these guys, it feels like all of them are just popping off right now. All of them feel empowered, you know, and we've seen it so many times in Fortnite history where you get these players, you know, give them that confidence and they all just shine.
And you can see that in these numbers from the play-ins, Miniminer. Our top 4 damage dealers and the top 3 were all in this trio.
Yeah, I feel like this is just so rare. You know, this is the sort of play-ins damage, and each and every one of these players in this trio is actually first, second, and third on the standings in terms of damage. So really, really, as I mentioned, the composition of this team, the balance is so impressive.
I wasn't BMing Thomas, by the way. It's top 5 damage dealers, I could say. I mean, Thomas was given. He was a given. Let's take a look at the leaders of these trios, though, because we need to take a look at the numbers between Vanya and Fredoxy. Now, obviously, Fredoxy's numbers are insane. When you look at this 11, it almost feels unfair to compare the two.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not real. Like, we're not looking at Vanya and expecting him to put up similar numbers in that sense to Fredoxy, right? They're both playing in different ways, and so I think it's you know, to not make Vanya maybe look too bad here. It's more so just to highlight the differences and I guess the way these guys play and the roles there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can just see how different they play. You can see the role, of course, is a little bit different as well. We know Fredoxy leads the way, and we know Vanya leads the way, but in very different ways. So I think maybe Vanya is more of that sort of traditional IGL leading the way, whereas Fredoxy picking up so much more damage like we saw in the play-ins.
And we also can see how they play the end games very differently, because Miniminer, once we get to the 8th zone, Vanya and co, they're going to have their eyes firmly on the skies. Yeah,
2 different teams, 2 different play styles, and Vanya's trio are going to be looking to take height as soon as possible, nice and early, and investing all of those materials. So we can see it right here. This is 8th zone. They're already chopping the team that are sort of established up on height and trying to claim it for themselves. They're trying to invest all of those materials that they have. You can see right here, they don't even have any eliminations. So this is all of these materials that they've saved from really good rotations. And this sort of is a reason why maybe they're picking up a little bit less eliminations than a team like Fredoxy. But something that they are susceptible to here, 11, is the fact that other teams are looking to take it late on as well. And this is something that they have struggled with in the past.
Yeah, it was something that was a bigger issue for them, I think, earlier this year when they first established themselves as like a top high team. But over, you know, recent weeks and you know, especially this season, they've been a lot better. When I've watched a lot of their games, they're much more alert to it, they're much more aware to it. And I think it's not necessarily a big weakness for them as it was previously. And the big benefit you have is in those situations where teams will just fight you for it, you have Marius and Pixie who are in the form of their lives right now.
Well, if we take a look then at the flip side at their close rivals, Fredoxy, he's not necessarily rushing to the top, Minnie.
Yeah, he's all the way down the bottom. This is a completely different style of play for this trio. This is at the exact same time in the game, that 8th, 9th zone time in the lobby, and you can see them all the way down on low ground, picking up these refreshes, picking up those materials, and using these sort of dashes to get to the front side of the zone, and the mist forms as well, which we're going to see a lot of today. We can see Fredoxy doing it right here, just playing those sort of low to mid ground layers, and they're getting so many eliminations while they're doing that, Levin. And this is the elimination right here that sets them up for success, and of course gets them all of the materials. And this is what they like to do. They try and look up for height at a later stage of the game once they've got all those materials that we can see Fredoxy doing here.
Yeah, I think maybe, you know, a big difference in style, right? A big difference in the timings. And I think these guys can be a bit more free-flowing, right? I think it's much more formatted with Vanya, whereas these guys, there is a bit of flexibility there. And I think when you have Chino and Pablo by your side, Fredoxy has the liberty to make those calls, knowing these guys are going to be ready to back him at all times.
I'm so ready for tonight's action. However, Taka did mention it earlier, this format does mean that if you get Victory Royale, you get your golden ticket straight through to the Major 3 finals. 11 of these 2 trios, do you think one of them could be picking up one of those tickets today?
I'd expect both of them to take those tickets, to be honest. 2 of the most experienced teams when it comes to winning set lobbies.
Vinny?
Yeah, I completely agree. I expect Vanya's team to come out strong up on high, and maybe we see a little bit of interaction between the two with a late game take from Fredoxy, but we'll have to see.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. And I think that the Battle Bus is ready to go for game 1, so let's head to Taco and to Carter and get this show underway.
Thank you, Frankie, Levin, Mini, for setting the stage. Look, Taco, it's Major 3. We've had 2 majors before this, and now we're at the last chance to qualify to the Global Championship. In the previous majors, you could maybe have a rough group stage, not qualify, and be like, all right, we always got next major to make it to the Global Championships. But you can't do that anymore. It's the last shot, and the pressure is going to be on.
Of course, and we've already highlighted a handful of some really strong competitors, but now we get a chance to see them actually play it out because game 1 underway.
Bora lá para mais jogo.
There's been quite a few changes from the last time we've been around, but before we get into them, I'm curious to see how a lot of these kind of off-spawn engagements do play out. We've got Crime City contested. Demon's Domain originally didn't look like it was going to be contested, but I think there was a last-minute switch-up. We'll see if both trios actually end up committing. But so far, we are going to get a bit of action.
Ooh, Utopia heating up for sure. Soray, Peter, Manya, they're just rolling around, trying to establish a little bit of spacing between themselves and Denkuzo's trio. But now Peter looking to just kind of close that gap. They knew they tagged Denkuzo for that white, and they want to see if they can find an early elimination, kind of set themselves up with that 1-man advantage, but things have sort of fizzled out for the time being.
What's difficult about Utopia, especially in this group specifically, is that the surrounding trios aren't contested necessarily, so they are going to be able to kind of peek over at Utopia, see, is there a potential kind of third-party opportunity if this fight ends up taking too long? So these trios know that they have to either be really quick or kind of separate themselves, because if 2 players end up getting knocked, it's solo v solo. The third party's going to end up cleaning it up, but so far angles are what they're trying to find.
But for sure needing to keep in mind that Shining Span could look to get involved. First up, though, we're going to have to actually see how things are shaping up inside of Crime City. We knew that there was going to be an all-spawn battle here in Revscar. Now it's his opportunity to try and find an opening shot here. Skyjump also with a separate angle, and Day, that is huge. Sky just could not withstand the pressure. That's going to be an early knock, and now everybody else trying to follow it up. But Revscar, he's going to have to fall back instead, just 2 tagged up. Same case scenario here for Skyjump. Everyone just seeming to have to backtrack to the start, and that might be the difference maker here in getting this double revive off.
Oh no, it was looking so bright. Skyjump with another knock, though. This could be it. They have to clean this up now. If Skyjump ends up getting knocked, the third party is going to be devastating for this trio, as Revscar is now forced to take alternate angles, and the third party's getting closer and closer. This is not the position you want to be in. I mean, we mentioned it earlier, but this is not only their last chance to qualify, but Revscar having not qualified by 1 placement point in the last 2 groups he competed in. We don't want to see a repeat of that, Taco, and hopefully with this first fight they can set themselves up for success. But it looks like the third party's now gonna strike. Revscar gets cracked. Momsy hits a huge shot. Not enough for a knock yet.
Instead, it's going to be Praharo that has to walk it back, but the damage had already been done. Revscar will be eliminated. And still, double revive now in effect here. This is a real issue because Talio can potentially look to just bring this one back. But Praharo kind of recognizing, hey, our prime opportunity for that third party has sort of gone in the opposite direction. They still got a decent amount of surge with those initial opening shots onto Skyjump and Revscar, but not really an engagement they want to finish out.
Not at all. Demon's Domain, we can see the eliminations on the board. Looks like the contestation did come on through. This being one of the most, if not the most powerful POI this season, being able to claim this every match of the group stage will be more than enough. I mean, even just a couple good opportunities coming out with Demon's loot should be enough to at least get that victory royale. Huddy, though, not gonna want to make it easy for them. Issue is, not a lot of mats, loot, disadvantage. But maybe they'll be able to close it out.
It's evident that some of these off-spawn engagements have just been drawn out a little bit longer than what probably a handful of these teams would have really anticipated. But Huddy, Falco, they're still applying a good amount of pressure from overhead and just trying to keep tabs on the mountain range behind them. They know third-party opportunities are always present whenever you have these run-on exchanges. But finally, the score is going to be tied up here because Fishy being eliminated, Jewel just dropping completely low. And this is a huge problem now for Huddy's team because it's a decent amount of time invested here at Takata, and they're going to find themselves now also having to look for that reboot.
Yeah, you can see Jewel and his duo already hero rank A, have the Mythic Spire AR from taking down the boss here at Demon's Domain. Now, I know there's going to be a few people that haven't been around much for this competitive season, so to give you a quick refresh of how things are looking now, the main goal is to, one, get your mobility up, but two, get that hero rank up. So good ways to do that. There's spires, there's shrines. Being able to drop around those is crucial to this season to get you that dash sprite, to get you that mist form for mobility later on. And also, if you're able to take out the NPCs that spawn alongside those spires, or even in places like Demon's Domain, eliminating them will help you boost up that hero rank and allow you to get better loot. So that is going to be a focus for a lot of the trios, and Vanya, Marius, Pixie being one of them. At Flooded Frogs, they have 3 Spire spawns around them. Now, it's not 100% guarantee that they'll be there, but when the odds are in your favor, could end up being a positive.
Oh, looks like Volko, Vidil, and Cringe, though, they decided, hey, if you guys aren't going to settle the score at Demon's Domain, we'll just become a part of the conversation. Except finding that knock for Volko. Clean elimination, but Deal gonna recognize that they are not alone. Off in the distance, loses his shields. Successful reboot though for Huddy's team, so that's a big pickup, bringing Fishy back into this one. Still, knowing that they're gonna have to deal with yet a separate team after just having shortly gone for the reboot there. Still a decent amount of goods left over in Demon's Domain, of course, Takata, but it's always going to be tough because the longer this goes, the more likely that other teams are also going to want to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, both trios here, though, look pretty good now. I mean, they've got their loot, they've got their mats, done their damage. Getting a bit of deja vu from major finals, last major, as we got Teeny, Trulex, and Skavi here. Enjoying their position.
And I know at the start of show, Des kind of touched on the fact that these guys, they barely squeezed into this Group 1 section, 97th place. Granted, Trulex, he's got a smart mind behind him. Wouldn't be surprised to see them come up with some kind of big showing. It's all about whether you can get that victory royale or be top 5 in consistency here today, so you can never really count some of these teams out. Rikbor Gudumbri staring across the range. They're just trying to keep their surge damage underneath their thumb, but Thomas, HD, Scroll Sky, we saw them getting active earlier on. Those 2 eliminations now are going to help them just be able to emphasize a little bit more on their rotations, but shots off in the distance means heads up, and Thomas, Sky, Scroll, they want to make sure they heal first.
Yeah, and seeing that it's second zone now, previously it was 4th zone when the island would appear, but now it is second zone, so a lot sooner. Medallion's a little different. We'll talk about it if we end up seeing a trio up there, but it is a good thing to look out for now if you're uncontested and are able to get out of your drop spot quite quickly. Pablo Chino for Doxy, though, from dominating the play-ins now, with already 3 eliminations kicking off game 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they're out of the groups early on, and that's from securing a victory royale. 1,054 points you can see in the quick stat, leading the pack. They've got what it takes, Taco.
For sure, but this is really what so many teams are trying to keep an eye out for. These massive surge bases, just kind of influencing the direction that some of these teams are opting for those rotates. Prodoxy's team, great example, clearly going for that dead side motion, and Viren, Kashi, Relvis, they're just kind of trying to gauge if there's going to be any stragglers they can maybe take advantage of. They're chopping down their base to try and not give away their position.
But
other teams overhead on top of the Rift Island itself, Rex, Lucy, and Zengi. One of our newly formed trios too. Kind of crazy the story that took place with Rex, but these teams now, they know they'd rather just find their seat in the finals.
That indeed. Already having the Mythic. From this island, you can get the Mythic DMR alongside that medallion that kind of boosts your movement, get a bit of invisibility while you're at it as well. Seen Peterbot on NA.
Não, mano, não. Transmitindo a
sessão
europeia
de Now at Crime City once again. This battle has been going on for what? The whole game, basically, since the start of the match, it seems. Still a great shotgun. It's not looking good.
It's so easy for other teams to kind of just roll into the action. Lovetto, Talia, they're also just trying to play things safe. They don't want to find themselves getting collapsed on last second. Same can't be said, though. Owls trio hoping to find a really strong collapse here. They're playing inside of the storm. Early take damage, though, not going to be too much of a threat. They just want to close this one out, find themselves with top tier refresh heading in. Mid and late game rotations, they make it there, but gotta be real careful because lurking for Doxy, Chino, Pablo, they're bound to hear these shots going off.
Yeah, this is not a trio I'd like to run into when I have to rotate back into zone after this engagement. You got to think, at what point is it worth it to continue pursuing this? Like, you do have the HP advantage. You know a lot of your opponents are cracked. You potentially even have a lot of spare heals, but at what point is it no longer worth it? As for Doxy, Pablo, Chino, like you were alluding to, Taco, they said, okay, I smell something good here, and I want it.
This is the last thing that any team would ever want to see. And for Doxy, he might just be the last thing that Snow, Alan, Quickspot see. The kiss with revolvers, accuracy, definitely strong there. For Doxy, though, going to turn it around. Chino and Pablo, recognizing the fact that these two other teams have split opposite directions. They want both of these fights, though. Pablo trying to see if he can close in onto Nade, but a little bit of distance to separate. And Pablo reuniting with Prodoxy, want to make sure that they're able to support Gino. Pablo could use a little bit of a refresh on his way HP too.
Yeah, looks like they're all going to group up and heal a little bit here. With three trios kind of in the pack, I mean, at least they got a bit of damage, but I know that Prodoxy, Pablo, Gino wanted more than that little pickup, but better safe than sorry. They'll have time once they're back in the zone.
Judging by that quick stat, Takata, when we're talking about a win-in-you're-in style format, knowing that Prodoxy's team has 5 Victory Royales in finals this season, it's evident that these guys understand what it takes to find that winning formula.
Na verdade, eles são assim, né, velho? É só
in the first match, so they can take the rest of the day off. That's going to be another story entirely, especially given some of these other teams in the lobby.
Mas também os caras têm uma mira que você dá tiro e já tira metade da...
Supportive measures from underneath where his team is based at, and also action taking place still in between Supernova Academy. Big shots here for Sorde's team as they're just gonna wipe through, and surprisingly enough, it's just crazy to kind of that these teams are still like kind of lingering, getting caught off guard.
Eu achei que o Fred tava indo bem, mas...
Yeah, it's lasted a while. I mean, Supernova does have that kind of zip line where it launches you into the sky.
Vamos olhar a maioria do loot deles, velho, é somente arma, não tem uma vida, não tem uma cura.
It seems like Pablo, Chino are going to be able to pick back up for Doxy, but trying to think kind of what happened there. I guess they just ended up, yeah, you can see the eliminations picked up some more. Prodoxy went down due to it, but they're doing fine. They'll make it to zone. Oh.
Not necessarily ideal though. It's definitely a little bit of a hiccup in their natural flow, but Pablo Mingo, Prodoxy, Chino, they do have, they can opt to maybe find some of those hero crates along the way, but the vending's also going to play a big part there at Brutal Boxcars. Thomas HD, Scroll, Sky, got their eyes set on to Hadi. He knows Game is afoot here. Thomas AG immediately closing in with that dashes. And he's trying to find the overhead view. Scroll's been tagged heavily, though. Thomas AG, he has to fall back and provide some support.
Yeah, this season, it's really hard to run with the mobility that's in the game, having so many opportunities with the dashes, with the mist form. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Thomas HD was one spot off qualifying to the Global Championship last major, so you know he wants it more than ever now. Making it out of the group stage is just step one. With the newly formed trio. Excited to see if they can make it happen.
Yeah, unfortunately for Thomas, one step away has been a sad recurring theme, but there's always a chance to change that narrative. It could start if they're able to find their place in the Major 3 Grand Finals. Right now, though, Prime City, you know, we picked up with an Osbon at the start of this lobby, Takata, and it seems like things never really slowed down after that. Several teams kind of just surrounding the outskirts of Prime City right now. Badil, Volko, Cringe, trying to make sure they don't get too caught up in any sort of lateness or late rotating congestion. So they're going to get a move on now. Want to find their positioning. Taking notice, though, True Lex and Teeny, trying to see if they can get some shots in to prevent them from kind of hanging side by side on their rotate, but the deal, he might actually be after more surge. Definitely keeping close tabs here. Tribulex just an arm's reach away, it feels like.
Yeah, if you're looking to get a bit of damage, that mountain, perfect view onto all the trios rotating in from the congested side if you're able to get there early, but maybe you just want to play it extra safe, go around the back. It is a full west pull. A lot of the trios that have used their dashes early on will be in more of a difficult situation here. You kind of want to conserve a bit of that mobility for later in the match, but easier said than done. Gudin, Rick Borcade, 223 above. I mean, it's good, but not enough to be fully comfortable yet. Positioning-wise, they're looking great, though.
This is a great base kind of set up in. Kovacs and Kolb. They're just trying to make sure they don't get held on the edge of zone. So many boxes in front of them. Takata, they know it is going to be a problematic journey. Kovacs immediately loses his shield. You don't want to find yourself getting lobby focused. So they're trying to see if they can just keep hugging alongside the edge. Maybe they'll find a wraparound opportunity, but so many teams just already based up in front of them. It's going to be difficult for them to find any traction here. Other teams still stuck even, fighting inside the storms. Engi, Rags, Balusi. Seems like they recognize the fact, hey, we're 26 below the damage threshold. We don't want to burn all of our shields. Just trying to delay from this surge take, so they want to find a refresh. They need to find damage, though.
Yeah, I saw a pad in the build, so they do have that rotate in. Will it be safe enough to use? I'm not sure, but that's the least of their worries right now. Getting ticked by Storm, Zanki going down, Balusi, Rax left as a duo. As it keeps getting worse and worse. On the other hand, it looks like 4 eliminations already on the board. I don't know if they're going to be able to make it back to zone, though, to be honest, Taco.
This is a problem. Rax and Balusi, they are out for a vengeance, and Rax, he's going to find one. Rania going to be forced to sit this one out. Peter joins him. Balusi immediately dropping. He knows that he needs to get the siphon. But at the same time, the damage, I fear, has already been done. Takata and Rax still tangled up with Zor. Just trying to find this last elimination. Just dancing around.
Okay, they got it, though. Sor goes down. Balusi, Rax now have to figure out, okay, if we wait a bit longer, the zone is going to close towards us, but at the same time, how much are we willing to give up? We'll see if they end up making it in, but Ricky for now, 223 below. Look at the loadout, too. 2 open slots. This is gonna be tough.
Even with the DMR, they're still going to need to connect them with a shot. 77 below. Everybody's starting to have a little bit of panic. But Chino, one of our leading teams in a whole world of trouble here. It's only Pablo Wingu left to try and play the revive here for Chino. But that is a massive blow. Losing for Doxy. Pablo and Chino They don't have the white heals. This is going to be a very difficult rotate, even with those misforms. And they're 48 below Surge.
Foi o Pablo que caiu, velho.
I'm not even exactly sure how that happened. They're like primed up in positioning. It seemed like they had more than enough loot. Fordoxy went down, and I guess Chino, while he was trying to pick him up, ended up getting knocked as well because they didn't close the wall behind. It's just kind of a sequence of unfortunate events, and now they're forced to play this out as a duo with the Surge gone from Fordoxy as well. Now they are just barely above, forced to kind of stagger themselves on their rotate and try and pick off a few shots here on the players rotating in. This is just from everything to almost nothing. I mean, it's still possible to get a good amount of placement, but winning the game is going to be significantly more difficult now.
But with their mobility, they could definitely close in on a knock or an elimination incredibly quickly. They're just looking for that third-party opportunity. Sky Scroll, Thomas HD, though, they've already got their position. They're trying to make sure that Giddis is not able to follow them forward. Cringe also skirting by with Vadil and Volko. And Sky just continuing to pepper into both of those teams, not trying to allow anybody the opportunity to rotate anywhere nearby them, just seeing if they can secure any kind of additional surge damage. But Gina and Pablo are much healthier than before, thanks to that superhero rank up, but it's still going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah. Some trios that are looking really strong. Combat Blaha Shark, full trio up. Thomas Sky Scroll, full trio up, looking strong. Volko Cringe. Vadil now, 300 above as well in the low. Kind of depends where this zone ends up pulling. But so far, Pablo is praying that zone will pull back.
I'll have to hold that for another moment, though. Marias, Vanya, Pixie, our first time really checking in with another one of our powerhouse leading teams of Group 1. And already, Marias trying to take advantage of the fact that they're well above the search threshold. Now it's just about pushing the rest of the lobby back. They've got a pretty isolated position inside zone. Shark Combi and Blaha, though, eyes on this team because Shark is down. That kind of creates some ripples in this lobby. Chino and Pablo, this almost feels inevitable right now. Takata just trying to wait out some of these surge ticks, but losing all of your shields in the process. This is going to be a crucial moment. They need to see if they can tackle this battle.
Valor da bateria.
Not sure if they recognize, though, that it's only a duo
desse branco,
yeah, it's a little tough. It's a good time to kind of look for those shots, but using mini figs, you really don't get much time to actually look for those shots. So Mistform's going to be used, elevated a bit higher, so they have that vision on the players rotating in. Make sure they're in zone now, using those hard mats. It's possible, but up above, it is going to be Thomas HD, Sky. Scroll has gone down, so they are playing it out as a duo, but still potential to make something happen.
Still in control of the high ground, at least for right now. Pablo Wingo, he's down. The last man standing up for Doxy's team. And Pablo will take this moment, try and get off his last shield potion. He still has one to work with, but it is going to be very difficult now, having to play from the backside of the zone. Doesn't want to find himself getting locked into any kind of congestion, though. But these lower layers, at least he has so much material to work with, Takata, so he can delay just a little bit, but he wants to find a big opening shot right now while Kashi is distracted. Firen kind of trying to stare down the same line of sight. They know that they've got at least one player behind them, but Pablo, he can't afford to stick around any longer. He's got to keep things moving. Blaha, Shark, Combeck still holding down secondary height, but it's the front side of zone that they're hoping to control, and they take it.
I got faith for Shark and his trio here. Looking like a late high ground retake could be what secures them the win, but I don't want to talk too far ahead as Sky and Thomas now are continuing to play this out as a duo. They've given up high ground. Nice picks onto Fishy in the back line. 3-4-3 above still, as they're just going to be playing it slow and kind of wait out the lobby as players continue to go down.
Kind of just what you have to do. Maybe look to play for a player potentially in the low grounds. They continue to drop on Marias, Vanya, Pixie. What a familiar sight. One of our leading contenders all the way in the high ground. But Deal Vocal and Cringe, though, they are doing numbers on the low, 773 above, already 5 eliminations. They don't look like they have any intentions of slowing down. Those consistent refreshes just paying dividends for them currently. Sky, Thomas, though, they scouted out. This is a solo trying to scurry on by. Might be able to cut them off here. Sky, we're gonna see if they can collapse, but no, first they've got to break past all these pre-existing builds. So much paranoia probably involved for these teams inside the low ground. Pablo Wing also getting lit up by the surge stick damage too. It's not gonna make his journey any easier here. Sky, Thomas get that refresh on their dashes and go forward immediately. That secondary low is going to be a little bit crazy here in a second.
Looking very bright for Vanya and his trio up above, but like I was alluding to, Mama Shark are kind of thinking now, is it time? Should we look to make a play for it as Giras goes down? Cringe, Volko, and Fadil looking to control the low. Pablo has been doing an amazing job staying up as a solo as he's getting closer and closer to taking Thomas out. Just one tick from Storm would be all it takes. But he does not want to go down here, securing placement after placement, as now it's just Vanya Pixie up above as Marius has dropped down, trying to get a quick refresh, a bit of extra eliminations as Sky is playing it all alone.
It's the same story though for Sky. They've got to close in onto speed. They managed to find the full refresh. That Cypher gonna buy them a little bit of time. They're trying to play catch up, get into the zone, but there's just too much traffic directly in front of them. Sky also getting tagged from overhead. Doesn't even have a chance to look up, burning every single one of their last remaining builds. And sure enough, Sky's gonna be eaten up by the lobby. Pablo, though, the amount of placements he has clutched as a solo is insanity here. He's still looking to find more, too. Sangil might get picked off if he's not careful, but Pablo is just weaving in and out of these builds. Finally, height will take him out.
Top 7, that's more than enough for the solo clutch, but now Vanya, Marius, Pixie, all eyes are on the prize. They want to close this one out. They don't need a huge amount of eliminations. They don't need to frag out. All they need to do is win the game. That is enough to qualify themselves to the Major 3 finals, but Fadil, Volko, and Cringe are not going to make it easy for them. Splitting up materials, getting ready to control the low ground. The issue is here, those players with not a lot of mats are going to start dropping down slowly, causing them to have to get into these engagements, but it might just be something positive as the refreshes are going to come through. The preparation for a potential heal off, medkits being split, Chug Jug's getting prepared, Blaha now going down.
They don't have a choice. They need these players to drop to the low ground because they didn't have any builds to work with. Now, Blaha, Cypher Materials going to pay off there for the deal, but Marius forced the drop from the neck, getting picked up. It is only Vidil's team essentially standing in the way here, the only other healthy-looking trio in this lobby, but Dixie taking a second to look back, Shark in the distance. That's going to be the end of this one here. Vidil immediately sat down. Goodness, that was a shot. But Marius, Vanya, Pixie, this is looking like theirs to take home, Takata.
Cringe doing what he can, play the heal off, but Marius said not so fast, hunts him down, takes him out of the lobby, and books himself a ticket straight to the Major 3 finals. What a way to kick off Group 1. I mean, to be honest, Taco, that's a trio you expect to win Game 1.
It started with the last major, it feels like, Takata, where the only thing anyone was asking for from Marius's team was to convert their early game fight and convert it into just a strong end game placement, and finding a victory royale in lobby 1 here of Group 1. You really couldn't ask for a better performance from this team.
100%. And I mean, you know what that means, Taco. They were landing Flooded Frogs uncontested, so there's a brand new open POI that anybody in the lobby can pick if they want to make their way on over. They will obviously have to switch up their strategy and get ready, but this is just game 1 of 5, so let's go back to the desk and see what they have to say.
Thank you so much. Well, we came to see Vanya, Pixie, and Marius show why they're currently the pride of Europe, and they did not disappoint Mini Miner.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was just a replay of what we showed at the beginning of the show. Or was it just the same thing? Because that was the exact same performance, and we've seen from these guys so often, taking high early on, closing it out. And to be honest, it looked pretty simple there, Levin. They didn't really get contested by anyone. Yeah,
I feel like the way that game played out sort of just meant that it was, You know, a lot of times you see teams on high end, you know, they'll have people drop down, try to close things out. The way the zone sort of played and everyone's going up elevation, all they really had to do was just shoot their weapons, right? Shoot their weapons, make it uncomfortable for any solo clutches or duos still trying to get about, find a layer, because you're going to force them into the remaining trios in the lobby. And then at the end, dropping down, Marius making sure to close things out. It was a very, very well-played game, but like you sort of highlighted, Mini, a standard game for these guys. They've probably done that a million times, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, Marius with that coin as well, that medallion, that's something we're going to have to take a look at when it comes to the major finals, because we don't get to see them. That's the only downside to this team now. I mean, they've already qualified. We're not going to get to see them for another couple of weeks. So I'm excited to see what they can bring when it does come to the major finals. No surprises, though, here about these guys coming through. And as Takata mentioned, Flooded Frog's now open, so who's going to take it?
Who is going to take it? Who do you think is going to be eyeing up that spot? Any guesses, Levin?
No, I don't have a guess, to be honest with you. Somebody will. Like, someone will do it, but I can't sit here and be like, yeah, it's going to be that team.
Well, we'll be talking about the trios who still will be in the lobby, because Marius, Pixie, and Vanya have booked their spot in the Major 3 finals already after this short break.
O palpite dele deu tudo errado, os dois que ele deu de palpite morreram. Isso, Arthur, é um torneio, esse é FNCS, é um torneio da Epic Games do Fortnite. Só que aí tem edição asiática, tem edição europeia, tem edição sul-americana. Aqui eles estão na europeia. Aí depois tem a parte asiática, tem a parte americana, norte-americana. Tem a parte sul-americana. E aí, quando é lá pro final do ano, eles fazem o Mundial, que aí é todo mundo. Que aí é o pessoal que ganha de cada etapa, se junta pra jogar a final. Agora, gente, demos 1 minuto e 40, aquela tempinho pra tomar uma água, tomar alguma coisa, beber alguma coisa. Já voltamos com mais uma etapa do game, são 5 partidas por dia. Assim foi a primeira, ainda falta 4 partidas da FNCS. Não, loucura, quiseram que tu visse o final. Eles meteram, a ilha se tornou 3 cidades. De tanta coisa que eles construíram em cima da ilha, não sei nem como é que ela ficou voando aí. O cara puxou, quebrou parede, quebrou tudo, invadiu, matou o último que tava. O leão já fechou, só que eu te falar. Tem pão aí, né? Tem pão que comprou maionese. Ai, o gordo falando de gordice na live, velho. Por que eu ia falar? Eu podia fritar, fazer um bifezinho com aquele bife que eu trouxe. Tem alface aí, né? Escolhe rápido, vai ser.
Well, if you have just tuned in, you missed our opening game of Group 1, and it was an absolute banger for Marius, Pixie, and Vanya. They didn't break a sweat as they raced their way to the Major 3 Grand Finals. However, we still have 4 more games to come your way tonight, so don't go anywhere as we talk about everything that you missed or just witnessed. If you did, set your alarms and tune in on time, because that was a very interesting one, particularly for Thomas, Sky and Scroll Mini Minor, because obviously this is a trio that's newly formed going into Major 3. They managed to make it into the top 10, and I think there might be some potential here. I think we are going to see these guys in the finals, if I can call it this early.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a crazy bold prediction, I'll be honest with you, but it's because it's Thomas's giant scroll. But I think this is a team that we do have high expectations of. We didn't get to see exactly what this team made of course, losing Scroll early on. But Sky and Thomas HD, they perform well, and I think there's always a bit of a question mark about when a new player comes into an experienced duo like Sky and Scroll, how are they going to fit in? And it seems like Thomas HD is doing exactly what Thomas HD does best, finding eliminations, leading the team here as well when it comes to Sky. So good work from these guys, but I expect more.
Yeah, they got a bit disjointed towards the end there, and it almost felt like both of them were sort of playing solo, which, you know, you sort of have to do when things get scrappy. But a bit before that, I actually really liked how they were playing, right, in terms of the way they were using timings to try and find eliminations and then just keep themselves ticking in the end game. So if that signs for what's to come, especially if they can play as a trio moving forward, I think these guys will be all right.
And great signs for what's to come from Fadil, Voco, and Cringe7, because this is a trio that I would have to say I was quite excited to see after they did so well in the Players' most recent performance evaluation. And they, I mean, you can't really compete with Marius on form, but they gave it a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I mean, they were there. You know, they were there. I think you look at how they played this game as a whole before you even get to the end game. They were one of those teams that was very much in this area, you know, way earlier in the game, right? They were looking to try and get good priority positions. They sort of were able to get a lot of their surge dealt with early on. And so it meant that they could play this really tempered game throughout many. And it set them up really well to be in this end game and to cause problems like this, pick your spots, take your fights. And again, if they can play like this in more of these games, you know, I'm sure they'll, you know, qualify in consistency. But hopefully we can actually see them pop off and just get the win as well, because these guys are really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I like the way they play low ground here as well. I really want to see them sort of forge that identity of being maybe a low ground team that we expect to be down there. The way they were sort of making their way through the players down below and sort of making their own path was really, really solid. And as you mentioned, the surge strategy is looking really, really good. I think the deal brings a little bit of that experience, a little bit of that expertise that really set them up successfully.
We didn't see such a successful early game, however, for Fredoxy, Pablo, and Tino. Fredoxy was down, needed to be rebooted. Then they had surge issues at the start of the end game. But Pablo, I mean, he's got to be the MVP for this team 11 because they still managed to make top 10.
Yeah, Fred will not be happy with showing that highlight. That was not his best moment. I see what he was cooking. Chino especially will really hope we'll stop playing that replay. Yeah. Let's watch more Pablo. Pablo was the one to watch in this game, right? He was able to clutch up quite a bit for them. And I mean, especially with the way the zones were playing, Mini, for him to have stayed alive as long as he did is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, and this is a team that we just talked about at the beginning of the show as just having such great trio dynamics, a team that are so good together. But this has just shown us how good they are individually as well. We know all about Pablo, we know what he can do, and I think he did it towards the end of last major as well. I think it was game 12 he was left a solo clutch as well. Couldn't quite make it happen there, but this time just making sure to sort of build on that and build on his solo clutching ability shows how good these guys are individually. So I think if any of those guys were in a solo clutch situation, they'd still do exactly the same job.
How do the individuals of this trio compare in terms of that kind of solo clutch potential, would you say, opposed to like Marius, Pixie, and Daniel? Seven.
Well, I think, again, you know, I think firepower-wise, every single player on this team feels like they can pop off at any given moment, right? And I think we've seen that from them in recent tournaments. There's a reason why all three of them were the top 3 damage leaders in the round before this one. So I think they'll back themselves more to solo clutch, but I also think Pixie and Marius will feel, I think at that level that these guys are at, any given situation you're in, you back yourself to clutch solo.
Yeah, and I can imagine that all the other trios right now are watching them and saying, yeah, we need to play like those guys, but don't forget to play to your strengths, because we're ready to board the battle bus and go into game number 2 with Taco and Takata.
Look, one thing's for sure, Takata, and that's the Flooded Frogs is open, but who's going to look to actually try and control that POI? I wouldn't be surprised to see more than one team have the idea to kind of switch things up a little bit here in case game 1 didn't go to their favor. Maybe you're contested, maybe you hope that you're going to be uncontested now, like Vanya's team was at Flooded.
Yeah, it's a great drop spot. Has 3 Spire spawns, so you have a good chance of getting that mist form, have a good chance of mobility, but that question can be answered shortly because game 2 is ready to go.
And much like Lobby 1, not everybody is going to be able to escape being contested off spawn. popular areas like Demon's Domain, for example, it's bound to be a little bit shaky. And Revscar already fully aware of the fact that this is going to be a bit of a showdown at Crime City, except Momzy, Skyjump, Revs, they want to be able to close this one out early.
It's got to be a quick fight. You said it yourself, Taco. We saw what happened in the last match. I'm trying to think to myself, do I want to see Revscar, Momzy, and Skyjump qualify through consistency or through a victory royale? Being contested always makes it that much more difficult for consistency, but we are going to be heading on over to the Demon's Domain as the 50-50 for the top chest plays out. Brawlhalla's trio is going to be the one with a better drop. Crucial part of taking home Demons, and already kicking things off with a player lead.
That initial elimination is going to make things very difficult now, for sure, to actually create a little bit of spacing. Brawlhalla, Asiak, Kaisers, just looking to play things out consistently here. Gotta land their shots though to open the door. Otherwise they could find themselves getting turned on, but not gonna be the full collapse there just yet. Out of Brawlhalla. Still gonna depend on Kaisers. See if you can find a separate angle here. Still have to deal with the affairs at Demon's Domain too.
Yeah. At this point, it's kind of difficult. It's interesting because chests obviously aren't 100% spawn, but the rare chests will be, so it's almost a guaranteed if you're able to get that better drop up top. As for Hara now, all of them looking incredibly low, but they are going to clean it up, so it's worth it in the end. And now they're going to get the medallion for themselves that gives them, you know, guaranteed 50 shield, perfect to get Storm Surge, the best AR in the game, and an incredibly high hero level early on. So part of the reason why that drop spot is so good as we look at Momzy, Skyjump, Revscar, they know now that they want to clean this up.
Momzy just trying to ensure that they're keeping control of the high ground. Days, guys! It's gonna make the wrong step over, and Momzy immediately punishing him for it. Lovetto, last one left behind here as Momzy, Revscar, and Skyjump, they don't waste any time finding that final elimination. A much quicker conclusion in Lobby 2. This is exactly what Revscar, Skyjump, and Momzy needed to get the ball rolling here. They don't have to worry about getting third party, fourth party, fifth. It seemed like last game.
Let's see what they got. They got it all set up now. The 3 eliminations, the damage, the loot of Crime City without being third partied. So hopefully we see something happen in the mid to late game as Rax trying to clean things up now. No misform, no dashes, but more than enough to pick up that final player, I would seem. They only have 2 eliminations, but the full trio has been taken out, so hey, cannot complain about that.
All threats having been resolved, some of these outskirt fringe locations, but his extended Puzo Howley, they also managed to find a confirmation of controlling Utopia City. 3 eliminations for them, and seems like for some of our teams, obviously getting off to a much stronger start here, Takata, by finding these conclusions.
Yeah, it's interesting how much quicker things kind of roll after game 1 concludes. Players are warmed up. They're locked in now and ready to make something happen. Thomas Sky Scroll had kind of a bit of a difficulty having the whole trio up in the late game, but they were still able to clutch enough points to kind of put themselves in the top 10, literally being the cutoff at 42 points. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them take home a win in one of these matches.
Ooh. A little bit of sneak opportunities here, potentially. Power and Thielen kind of honestly looking a little bit more trapped than anything else. I originally believed that, like, you know, maybe this is them having gone for an even, you know, draw in these off-spawn battles since they are contested early, but Kovacs, cold loss. They have no questions left to discuss here. They just want to leave. They've already gotten what they were after with those 4 elims.
Looked like he wanted some ice. He was kind of farming the little ice crystals, but it's all good, you know? New POI. Volko, the deal cringe. 81 points already. You know, that's a great position to be in. First place right now, not counting the trio that already qualified through the win. And a shout out to Pablo. I mean, Levin was talking about it. Solo clutched himself a top 5 after that match. Ended in 6th place, 7 eliminations, but it put them top 5 on that leaderboard. So hopefully this time around, they can actually close it out as a full trio. Superman Sprite being used, which is great for destroying builds, but not great for eliminating players. But hey, when you're chasing someone down, the emoticons coming through. Yeah, it must not feel good to go down to that Superman Sprite.
Realistically, Kashi just had nowhere left to run. Pablo, recognizing the fact, though, someone was trying to get some shots in onto them. From a gap, Thomas just stumbling upon Faded. That's an easy opening elimination here. Sky now trying to see if they can find a secondary one onto Tex. Scroll also approaching with a different line of sight, but the overhead battle just continues. And Sky, Scroll, Thomas, they will just get the full collapse there onto Tex. Some of these players just getting smothered by the numbers once they lose a teammate or two.
Back to Rax once again here on the island. Repeating myself, it is second zone where it appears, so they're going to be able to get that mythic DMR, that medallion, kind of boost your mobility. It's not the best island medallion we've ever seen, but it's, especially now, actually pretty good if you're able to make use of it in the end game, jumping around, taking good shots. But they got what they wanted, and they'll continue on forwards now.
Well, they know where to potentially look if they want to try and establish a little bit more surge after beating tag or two on that rotate descent off of the Rift Island. Blaha, Comeback, Shark also looking to try and get some nice angles on the teams below, utilizing the mountain span over here at Brutal Boxcars, because Shark chasing down a player. Gonna take him all the way into the basement here. Relvis hoping to escape, but Shark has zero intentions of letting his prey go.
Not at all. He senses something red in the water. He's continuing to push on through. Don't want to take up too much time. The Rift gets used. Blaha connecting a good amount of shots, but he was just one away. Closing it off, but he can't complain with a bit of extra damage.
Definitely unhappy though that Pablo Wing is going to prevent him from being able to follow up, and now Blaha has got in the danger for Doxy up close and personal. Shark trying to see if he can provide a little bit of coverage, but damage is already done. That's a big opening elimination there for Doxy's team, and Chino overhead now. Comeback trying to see if he can back up Shark there, but this is looking a little bit dicey. Pablo for Doxy, Chino, they both have the health advantage and the numbers here, Takata. And Shark, we know he's a really strong fragger. We've seen him clutch ample amounts of times in these kinds of situations, but the fight is not what they're after. They want to disengage. Chino for Doxy, Pablo, they're not going to let him go.
This kind of clash of the Titans early on as Combat goes down. Shark left alone now, going to be forced to get on out of there, but as the Rift comes through, it opens you up to be eliminated out of the sky. Will he be able to make it? As he's not, you can see in the feed, Pablo has taken him out. 4 eliminations onto Fordoxy. Look, now all this trio has to do is not get picked off in the late game, and they should be able to close this one out.
After that battle, though, they're definitely looking very healthy. The Freezy, Wheat, Sined, over by Lone Wolf Lair. Not in a real rush just yet, but still opportunities to try and look for some surge damage. And the Flooded Frogs difference with Vanya and Medius and them having already qualled after winning game 1. Normally you'll see a lot of times that Lone Wolf will kind of just expect to be collecting surge on the team over by Flooded Frogs. It's very common for teams in both of those POIs to kind of take shots at each other, but I was wondering if the Freezy's surge has maybe been impacted since Vanya's team is out of the lobbies now. Trulex always wanted to have a plan, though, for surge strategy.
Yeah, repeat of their previous plans. A good point you made, though. That team that normally kind of taking shots at each other does end up qualifying. You have to switch up your strategy a little bit. Tini, though, Same strategy as always is going to be working out.
Bit split though. Skvi's got to be kind of wary. It only takes a second, one misstep for a team to kind of catch you off guard and really be the difference maker between at least establishing some good placement points throughout each of these lobbies. Because remember, if you don't find the Victory Royale, you can still be inside of that zone for the top 5 in consistency on the leaderboard instead. Owlsy hoping to see if they can get this real sneak play opportunity. Big shot to open things up. Craig immediately boxed up, praying that his teammates are going to be able to play enough defensive measures, and Owl, sure enough, can't close in just yet for that initial knock.
Shugjug in the loadout, good option. But I don't know if they can commit to this now. I mean, it was a good initial pump, but his team was a little far back. 3 points on the board, 0 eliminations. They kind of want to set themselves up. What I'm seeing in the last game didn't have a massive match, so maybe Storm Surge was the problem. And if that's the case, they're going to be playing a bit extra aggressive here to get that damage.
But for finding such a big opening shot onto Craig and still not being able to capitalize on an immediate knock conversion to elimination, that's just the stall that Hell's team was clearly not after. They were hoping to just get that big opening numbers advantage. Instead, now both of these teams gonna have to expend some time burning through a little bit of their own heals. And we're still dealing with early tick zones, Takata, but it's just the delay in rotational positioning.
Yeah, the common trend on these storm fights. Thomas Sky Scroll, though, they're not worried about it. They're going to show you how to clean up a fight quickly, as the 4th elimination is going to come through for the trio. One of the exotic items actually in hand. We talked about the spires previously. As a reminder, there are some purple spires that can appear on the map. 3 of them, each one containing one of the 3 exotics in competitive Fortnite. Pretty good to have. Like, my favorite one's the Shockwave pistol.
Yep, and a stable Yoink's definitely going to be very well utilized in a team like that's hands. Let's check back in with them though. Giras, Frek, Dinas, saw them in lobby 1, just trying to incorporate a little bit of elevated surge strategy. They're going to have to get a move on though and play off of the launch pad easily enough. It's really just about making sure they don't get lit up, and that's why I like the fact that they're not just trying to take that immediate white line into the zone. They're instead opting for a little bit more of that scenic route, try and see if they can wrap around off the dead side.
Take a quick look at what happened here with Rodoxy Paloshino, an insta knock with a 3-2-1. Look at the amount of eliminations this trio already has. They were not too happy about how game 1 ended. Said, okay, we gotta lock in now for game 2. Eyes are going to be on them as this match continues to play out.
And they continue to look for those same sort of dead side rotations, positioning, going to be very easy to figure out when you have so much surge already online too. Grigor, Gudenbri, and K, though, on top of the Rift Island, kind of taking notes on some of the teams rotating a little bit north of their position. But you can never really feel too safe on top of these Rift Islands, Takata. You know that there's bound to be at least another team or two kind of keeping tabs on whether or not this team looks to actually depart from the island. Very easy to kind of get lit up if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's the issue. We've had previous seasons, you know, with the Oni masks where it made it quite a lot easier to get on island, but now when the only accessible point causes you to kind of float in the sky a bit, it opens up that opportunity to get hit a lot more and eliminated, so it is a bit risky, especially later on in the match when you have to rotate from island into the zone. But so far, Rax, Belusi, and Zangild. Belusi's actually leading the pack in terms of eliminations so far. 5 elims in the last match. Guden now has lost Cade. Trying to see what they can do with Rick Bohr here.
It's not even just losing Cade, it's also they're aware of the fact that Rax's team is taking shots at them from afar. You're kind of just sitting this open season essentially if you aura duo in comparison to the trio surrounding you. So yeah, it makes sense for Victor and Gudenbri to immediately try and just drop down the low ground. But that fully closing in. This is where things went south. 4K just completely overwhelmed in that instance.
Volkovadil and Cringe so close to closing it out in the last match. Cringe tried escaping, but did end up going down in second place. 9 total eliminations for the trio. So at this point, they're en route to qualifying through consistency, but they, you know, we know they want more than that. As we'll see how they're able to play this one out. Seems like they're going quite safe without any eliminations, but still a decent amount of damage on the board.
Way that the zones are pulling, though, heading back towards that northwest territory. You're looking at some of those elevation shifts. 11 kind of touched on the desk. Everybody kind of rolling through. So the team in control of height could also be very easily influenced by the direction some of these endgame zones are headed, Takata, because Vanya, Medius, and Pixie last time, they were just destroying everybody down below. All they had to do was shoot because they had such advantageous positioning. And I really want to see a team kind of step up to the plate here. And I think a lot of people are kind of looking at Thomas, Scroll, and Sky to be one of those teams to potentially have that height control and just frag out.
Easier said than done, though. Just 2 seconds now, we can see where this zone ends up pulling. And it looks like it is going to be right onto Sky, Scroll, and Thomas. So that's going to make them smile a little bit. Reinforce their base now, elevate it. Saying, okay, we're kind of primed up right now, so just play it slow here.
Gino, Fordoxy, and Pablo have steadily made their approach. And they have a completely uncontested area space around them. There's nobody to be seen. Finally, they'll get a glimpse where Thomas, HD, Sky, and Scroll are at. But Fordoxy take the opportunity to just face up a bit. For Hala, not gonna let him have it for free though. Some good tags there. Kind of just being a slight hindrance to Fordoxy. He's gonna force him to have to use a little bit of that chug jug now.
I was talking about the purple spires. There is a chance you can get triple chug jug from them, so I'm wondering if that might have been the case. But Bombsy, Refscard, Sky Jump now. They've been in the zone for a good amount of time. We saw it previously when Thomas pulled zone. They were in the zone and they still are. It's a good way to kind of get into the uncongested side, though, when you do have enough damage and eliminations, which they do at 401 above. Question is now how they can convert that to the late game here. You want to be careful with Storm Sickness as well if it ends up playing as a heal off. Now you can in this season use the bird or, you know, mist form to kind of avoid that Storm Sickness damage for a little bit, but still going to be difficult. Craig now doing what they can to get above.
And this is the problem right now for Ref and Zaya. They're just going to be completely stopped in their tracks because Craig's team, they need a big win here, Takata. They need to find damage. And their only option is to take the first fight that they can actually find. But teams understanding when somebody looks desperate for Surge, just cut them off. Do not allow them to actually break our walls. But this is a lot of time now that if Craig's team doesn't tackle this immediate fight, they're just going to end up getting lobby focused anyway.
Yeah, they do have to be careful. 119 above now. Give them a bit of safety, but I wonder what Thomas, HD, Sky, and Skull have been up to. I saw on the feed they got a few eliminations. They got a nice angle. Picking up 1, potentially 2. This is a huge refresh right before this end game begins. They have set themselves up for success in this second match.
That is a tough break for Alva, and it looks like it's only going to get worse. Unfortunately, she cannot withstand the actual surge tick damage being underneath the threshold. And Snozy completely caught off guard. He's trying to get his teammate to safety. Finds himself now being a victim. Alzi doing what he can. See if he can buy a little bit of time, but he's not going to be able to go for that revive opportunity. He can't even stay standing himself. His Zix's team just a little bit too strong in numbers there. Cringe Volkovadil, though, seems like they want the fight.
seems like they might. Just 45 above. It might be time to take it, as the shots are going to come through, slowly picking up that spare loot from the eliminations. But they don't want to do anything risky here. You're so close to those moving zones already. Going down in this portion of the match is probably the worst time you could. So they'll find options to take those shots on the rotate. Players will have to move. There's going to be opponents who are also below on Surge. Forhala now trying to see if he can find one of those openings.
Forhala, Maziak, Geysers. Some shots taken onto Howley. They're just gonna keep making sure that they have that back target fully closed off. Rodoxy not gonna be able to follow Chino and Pablo. Cringe, Volko, Badil. They are just cutting him down at this point. They do not want to allow the rest of that team to escape. But unfortunately, now with the lobby getting involved, Chino and Pablo, they've just been squished in between a rock and a hard place here, trying to see if they can just wiggle their way out of this one. But Chino will be spotted out. Pablo, it's inevitable for him to go down, it seems like, but a misform, not even gonna get a chance to pop it off. He's just getting completely surrounded by the lobby, down to his final 3 HP. Only one shot needed to connect, and just teamed on both sides of him. There is nowhere left to run.
How is he still up?
Completely low. He is building for his life here, and somehow still standing.
Oh my gosh.
But despite his best efforts, everyone else has finally let up. I cannot believe that he has actually withstood that agony.
Not again. Not again, Pablo. The last match, he solo clutched it to a top 6. Jug has been used. He's back in the game now. 100-100. We'll see if he's able to get the back-to-back, but Sky Scroll Thomas want to get more than a back-to-back now with the setup that they have for this late game. Cringe Volko Badil continuing to apply pressure onto the elevation in the zone. This is going to be interesting.
And they're not the only ones. Thomas HD, Sky Scroll also taking note and shooting back at everyone else behind them. It's finally going to be their turn. Jump forward, though, likely wanting to keep control of that front side zone. Pablo just hanging back. He doesn't have any other options here, Takata. He has to hope that he can land a big shot on what would ideally be another solo or duo, maybe tagging behind. Seems like it might be Hizix and Howley that he's got in his sights, but not willing to make the jump just yet. Still has 393 above. The issue is he just doesn't have the mats. He's going to be forced into playing that backside of zone. He wants to drop low probably and just pray for a refresh.
He had so many mats before, though. He just got sprayed from max mats to just 17 builds, but Jewel goes Typer. I believe this is the trio that contests Demon's Domain, or was originally the uncontested team there. Could see them taking home a match. They want to go for all or nothing, and right now they're in position to do it. All they need is to execute it correctly.
Very similar to the last lobby, the Cringe, Volko, Badil. They look like they just want to control front side low. Granted, they don't have as much surge damage as they probably would have expected with those 3 eliminations. Only 96 above. Just indicates how action-packed this lobby has been. Giras, Franek, Dinas trying to keep a little bit of a separation between ultimate low. Just for right now, though, but Pablo still managing to be standing is incredible. He is just finding placement points wherever he can, but Pablo wasn't expecting that shot underneath. Just 2 players sandwiching him. That's going to be the end of his run. Scroll, Sky, Thomas trying to see if they can escape. Earlier on, we saw they were nearly flashing head on. Thomas's team, then Badil's playing low. You're bound to encounter one of the 2.
Yeah, it looks like they took out Forhala, but playing as a duo, once again, the full trio not being up. They're going to have to clutch this out, but they are looking quite healthy, so it's more than enough to get a good placement here for the Volko Fringe. They want to turn that second place into a first. Everything is in their favor here once again, making sure they have control of the low ground as Rax trying to get on ahead.
Badil is doing such a great job at tarping ahead, preventing anyone else from kind of getting those misforms into that same front side. Giras, Dinas, Franek looking up now, seeing they can get a temporary chop. Jewel forced to retreat to the high ground, but Teeny gonna cut him off in the process. Teeny actually gonna be the one left over on height, but Not sure how much material he has to actually hold it. He might just look for maneuver frontside zone. Ghost watches Jewel get sunk. Ghost meets a similar fate the moment he steps off of the high ground. Doesn't even get a chance to try and land. Trulex, Zvi, Teeny, it comes at a cost. They lost Teeny, but with Trulex and Zvi now up top, they've got to try and deal with the spray down low. Scroll and Thomas are still rolling as well.
This is one of the most dangerous parts of low ground when the players start crumbling down below. Volko, Vidil, and Cringe want to capitalize on that by picking up Elim after Elim, but they're looking around, they're saying, could this be our chance to apply that pressure on the high ground team? What a good time rotate to stay ahead here with that difficult elevation. It might just end up in that 3v3 to close it out, but Scroll is going to do what he can to stay up.
Wheaton, Afrizi, and Sined, though, they're currently in control of height, but they don't have a whole lot of materials left over. Dina is still backside of zone, just hoping to skirt by unnoticed. Vidil, Volko, Cringe, farming out whatever last bit of material they can find. They need every single mat at this stage. They were just here in the last lobby, Takata. Now they don't want to find that second. They want to be first. Scroll will be taken out. Cringe, Volko, Vidil. A trio looking incredibly healthy, all things considered. And Cringe, Volko, Vidil, they know it's really just this team on height that we've got to deal with.
The 3v3, the high v low, we've seen this countless times in Fortnite competitive. They're experienced players knowing they need to hit their shots. Afrizi takes out Cringe. Volko now is doing what he can to stay up as Vidil is just at a sliver of HP. Sined, can you connect the shot? All you have is one more tick of zone. He tries to pop the jug, but he doesn't have time. Volko is gonna clean it up. Cringe, Vidil end up taking home game 2, and what a way to push themselves into the finals.
After that lobby one, it was so clear that Cringe, Volko, and Vidil have a very strong grasp of how they actually want to play these low ground front sides zones, Takata. But to see them immediately transition from that placement in the first lobby to now a victory royale, it's got to be an insanely good feeling for these guys.
Oh yeah, 9 eliminations, second place, into 11 eliminations, first place. It was everything they needed, and with the double chug, Vidil was able to last it out. What a way to close it out. I mean, it was almost flawlessly played from the low ground control to closing it out. Let me know what you guys on the desk have to say, because that looked incredibly clean.
I know we're only 2 games in to Major 3, boys, but the class acts we've seen from some of these trios so far is making me so excited as we move through this series, because Cringe, Volko, and Vidil, they might be a new trio, but they have the game plan, I think, that's going to be right up there with more established trios.
I said after last game, if they can keep playing how they were playing in that first match, they're going to be well on their way to getting a win. I didn't think they'd do it so soon, no, Mini.
No, I didn't either. And it was quite a similar zone, actually, to what we saw in that very first game. So they almost had a very, very similar game to what they played in that first one as well. They had the exact same situation. They had their surge done early. They played low ground really well as well. And at the beginning of the show, I asked a few questions. I was like, is this the right move here for Volko and Cringe? Of course, doing very well with Kiduo last season, switching him out for Vidil. So far, so good for this team, though, as they're just showing how well they can play, despite being a new team.
I mean, when Vidil was on the market, I'm sure there were so many players who were just like, oh my gosh, we could get him in our trio. It's no wonder that Cringe and Volko were like, you know what, 12, that was good, but Vidil is someone who can, you know, who can take an FNCS final. So I think it makes a lot of sense. But for me, the fact that they're performing so well already as a trio is something that doesn't just make sense, it's something that's exciting to my senses. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about all the action from game number 2. See you in a few.
pegou. Tá vendo? Eu dormi. Eu vou lá, ela tá fazendo uma coisinha dela, depois eu vou lá, sério. Sabe o que eu tava pra comprar esses dias? Jujuba. Faz tempo que a gente não compra. Agora quebra estante, cai a TV. Avisou Dom se que já vai jogar lá. Avisa, porque se ele te convida depois tu não vai, ele pega e sai. O Lula vai dizer, essa é a intenção. Ó.
Welcome back to FNCS. It's Group 1 of Major 3, and our European trios are truly turning up. We have seen Cringe, Volko, and Vidil, a brand new trio for Major 3, go through to the grand finals. They know that they'll be seeing Marius, Pixie, and Vanya there as they won game number 1. But in game number 2, we did see some early fortunes turn up for the books for Fredoxy's trio and Thomas's trio, but neither of them we saw performing in those final moments, unfortunately, boys. So I kind of want to talk about what went wrong. Starting with Thomas, Sky, and Scroll. So we see Scroll having to try and clutch things out for his team, but I'm not really sure. We saw separation in the first game, but Levin, what was happening in the second?
I mean, this game was a bit better for them, I guess. It got much deeper with both players alive, or 3 players alive at one point before obviously Sky went down. And then again, it's just like a bit of poor timing, right? Scroll's able to sneak through and get through that passage. Thomas can't quite follow, and then he's just forced to clutch up.
Yeah, it's not the ideal game for these guys, but I mean, it is a consistency format. Not a bad game, not a terrible game, not an ideal game, but just an okay game for these guys. Yeah, not awful. Just continuing to get a little bit split in those end games. We saw, of course, Sky going down, not quite together with his team, so struggling in that regard. But I mean, it's still early days and it's still consistency as well.
Certainly looking good enough for the Group 1 lobby so far. For Fredoxy's trio, this was a fantastic early game. It feels like it could not have gone better for these guys. Fredoxy was on form for... Then, again, Zone 8, Pablo's trying to clutch on his own mini-miner.
Yeah, I mean, this is just exactly what this team do. They like to play aggressive early on. I mean, Fredoxy with those dual-wheel pistols, he is next level with those, getting so much damage early on. And it's just this point in the game, it's happened again here, Levin, where there's just 1 or 2 of them getting knocked, then it sends the whole team into a frenzy, no one knows what to do. Somehow, Pablo stays alive. I don't know how he did it, but there's a few mistakes that are being made here at this stage of the game, maybe a little bit of over-aggression.
It wasn't really over-aggression there. They sort of ran into the wrong team. It was Volko's team, right? They were the game winners. Right. And it was a classic case of, hey, Danish guys, remember, German ping still exists, right? And they get pre-edited. Fredoxy gets caught out. If Fredoxy can escape there, there's probably a good chance he stays alive. But his teammates had both sort of moved into the boxes next to them, and it was a bit unfortunate there. So again, I'm not worried too much about this team. Again, the setup in this game was a lot better, but you know, sometimes you're on congested side, you get pre-edited, you're up against some Germans, and it doesn't work out for you.
You sound like someone on Twitter now. Like I can just imagine Frodoxy's taken to Twitter already. He was like, it was ping, guys. It was ping. Let's take a look at the standings though, because this is an interesting one. Obviously, it's consistency and victory royales, 5 victory royales, and then the top 5 beneath that will be going through. We haven't really had a chance to talk about some of these trios though. But how Kaisers and Maciak, I guess they're just having a balanced game and not quite make it to the final 2, Mini.
Yeah, they've had a 2nd and a 6th so far, so pretty solid performances. Haven't seen too much firepower from them. Haven't seen anything that's going to make me think, oh yeah, they're going to come and take this next game by storm. But it's these sort of teams that can sort of take you by surprise a little bit, you know, making their consistent games happen.
I love that I was just like, they haven't made it to any top 2s. And Minnie's just like, they've made it to a 2nd. But you didn't shame me there. I've just shamed myself. Interestingly, in that last game, it was one of these kind of lesser experienced trios who did take that high ground. We saw Julie and his teammates up on top. Was it just getting unlucky with the mats here, Levin?
Well, they invested a lot of mats to take height, and this is a team who, you know, it's going to be a tough lobby for them because they're contested, and if they were uncontested, initially I was looking at a map of this lobby and they were uncontested, and I was like, these guys are a sneaky team who should be able to qualify through. But when they don't have as many opportunities to have games, they're going to go for the gambit, right? Meaning, like, a lot of the times, if you know you don't have plenty of games to play with, when you get an opportunity to take height, you're just going to take it. And so they invested a lot of materials, they ran out of steam, and they lose height as a result of it. So hopefully we can see them maybe in those situations look to be a bit more aggressive on the refreshes.
Yeah, it was difficult for them there because I think 2 different teams tried to take height at almost the same time. We had Teeny on there as a solo as well, causing havoc. So it was difficult for them when you don't have as much experience on height for them to actually find success. But as you mentioned, they're going to need to make those games count. So we'll see what they can do for the rest of the day.
Well, we have got 3 more games to go before we wrap up the action for Group 1. Are there any trios that you haven't seen inside the top 10 that you're surprised by? I know we've got the return of Refsguard. Didn't necessarily have the best start to the lobby, but is he someone you're expecting to go up the numbers as we head through these games, Evan?
Yeah, potentially, man. Shout out to Refsguard, I guess. We're back in Refsguard now.
We should be backing Refsguard. We don't want him to retire again, boys. Come on, Refsguard, we got you back, and we also got game number 3 ready to go. So let's head to Jakarta and Taco.
Thanks, Frankie. Look, I got faith for Refsguard, okay? He's in 16th place now, I believe. He started off not too strong going down off spawn, so you know what? It's still possible, but it always surprises me how quickly these games go through in the group stage, and we're already ready for game 3, so let's get right into it.
And it really is impressive how quickly the lobbies can just be burned through Takata. It's kind of a mental game right now for a lot of these players, because you obviously want to see if you can find that victory royale, take your best shot, but even if you don't get that game win, you can still play for the consistency metrics. And a handful of our teams today not really able to lock in that consistency. Demon's Domain will be left alone, though.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about consistency, that was so Ghost, Hyper, and Jewel, who, you know, they were just talking about them on the desk about their high ground performance, was the team contesting Demons. So I'm wondering if they kind of saw that bright light with high ground. They're like, we're so close. We don't want to go down again in the early game, deciding to switch up their drop. But I don't know if that's going to be the play. I mean, they're in 13th now. I think they were more kind of playing for that win, so we'll see what ends up happening, where they ended up dropping. But Refsguard, Skyjump, Momsy, once again contesting in Crime City. They got the off-spawn win in the previous match, the back-to-back. I don't know if it's going to be possible, hopefully, but we'll see.
Rax over by Resistance base, trying to see if they can find some early trades on the surge tags. Does pan out slightly in his favor. A little bit of trouble brewing though elsewhere. Alba and her team trying to see if they can find this collapse. Kylan just runs by and is immediately punished. Ego now left to try and fight back, but props will be found as a return fire. And this is getting messy now for both of these teams. It seems like neither side has really profited too heavily off of this one. But now it could be down to Kedadim, Power, to decide who's going to take it here, keep their pride going for their team. But Kara just doesn't want to go for that initial shot just yet. Kind of backing up, creating a little bit of space, maybe trying to see if they can find that final finish. And sure enough, that's going to put Power to have to commit to a decision now. Do I continue this fight, or do I just try to play for the reboots?
Take the 1v1, you know.
Well, he gave too much time now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he gonna let him pick up his teammate? Might have just done it. We'll look at the fight here at Crime City. It looks like Refsguard has an elimination, so they have the upper hand in the 3 versus 2. Looking at the minimap, I don't see any potential third parties this time around, so looks like they have the opportunity to close it out once again.
It's the early conclusions that Refsguard's team is after. Skies is a great initial elimination, but he can't seem to find that opening. Refsguard gonna be dropped though. The low ground has to retreat, lost his shield entirely. Skyjump and Momsy though, plenty healthy enough. And they're gonna get the return fire now onto Skies. Telio also getting lit up along the way. Refsguard knows he's got nothing left in the tank, and he'll get that final elimination. And these quick conclusions, though, is exactly what we need to see the repeat circumstances of. Last game, they were able to also find that quick conclusion. Same can't be said, though, for Helva and Kedadim. They finally take out the team that was initially contesting them, but now they have to deal with Noya, Kovacs, and Kolb, who are just substantially too healthy. This is going to be a very easy third-party chase down for them.
Yeah, I mean, not much you can do. Mist forms, got the dashes, got everything to chase down your opponents now. We're seeing a lot of success in this early game, but converting that early game to success to the late game is kind of what a lot of these trios have been lacking. So it seems that Ghost, Jewel, and Hyper have decided to go Flooded Frogs. This is where, at the start in game 1, where Vanya's trio qualified from, they said, okay, you know, let's go to that spot, see if it's contested, uncontested, and for now, it seems to be working out for them because, you know, they're all 3 up. It seems like they have a good amount of loot. But now you have to fight against the top trio coming into the play-ins, which is Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy. But they have had some issues, you know, staying up as a trio. You saw the stat that Pablo has been clutching out an incredible amount of solo points. But this isn't a solo FNCS, Taco. This is trios. So hopefully this time around, we can see the full trio in action.
But they've made it a little bit further each lobby. Just a couple of unexpected encounters really catch them off guard. Chuck and Azat might add to the spoiler party here for Ferdoxy's team. They don't realize that they're getting third party. They're still trying to take this pickup engagement with Jewel, Ghost, and Hyper. And now, red alerts. No, Chuck actually might be able to get this sneak up onto Ferdoxy. This is a dangerous place to be right now.
Yeah, this would be a tragedy if Ferdoxy gets picked up like this. It could be anyone, though. As it seems like, are they even disengaging? I'm not sure if it was like a calculated disengage or maybe like, you know, we're taking too much time. Haven't hit a big shot off. It's just too risky at this point. And that kind of like Spidey sense was perfect timing, as they might not have even known the third party was here, but now they're gonna know as both trios have exited on their own path.
I'm sure they're probably recognizing the fact that the shots being fired don't belong to them. Still, not the heads up win that you'd be hoping for. Gudenbree's team, on the other hand, they're able to find a couple of early eliminations. Outskirts of the map positions, though, you've still got to make your way into the zone. Cade, Rickborn, Gudenbree, they really wanted to get that chase out and find a confirmation on those early eliminations. This doesn't surprise me at all to see, though, Outpost having a little bit more action early on, given that Vidil, Cringe, and Volko just qualified to finals from that last lobby win. But one of these teams is kind of got to set your foot down, right? If you want to be the team to kind of claim that opened up position.
Yeah, sometimes it takes more than just one game, as we saw from Ghost, Hyper, and Jewel. Took them now until the third match to actually go to Flooded. I wonder if anyone even went there in the second match. But so far it is kind of a waiting game, an angles game. They have zones so close by that they have the time to spend. Here it is.
Falling off though, not even realizing Bendy's not going to be the first to fall though. Crazy exchange to start things off, but it's actually Lethro paying the price currently. Faded, if he's not careful, might be in a very precarious position here, but Faded will manage to create a little bit of a gap. Lethro loses Sony now, just left as a duo. But this is a really awkward angle that he's trying to find onto Faded. It's behind him, but still can't manage to fully break through these builds. The supportive measures being taken by Faded's team right now, a little bit too impactful here. And Lethro now completely separated from his other teammate. They've got to reunite and try to play this one out together.
Yeah, there's some impressive counter shots by Faded's trio, to be fair. They got kind of surprise attacked, but still were able to connect high damage pump shots, kind of pushing them to the upper hand of this fight. And now, not only did they want to pick up one, they wanted to finish this off. 3 more eliminations now on the board. Quick 9 points, quick refresh. This is perfect for them going forwards.
Those aren't the only teams getting stuck in some of these early game battles. Owl, Quicks, and Snozy. That's a nice opening knock onto Antoine, but even with that being said, still enough surrounding members to make this one difficult to close in on. Owl loses Quicks, but finding Nade means that they'll be able to play for that double revive, and Kenro gonna see just what kind of damage can really do, but he knows. Left by himself, opened up the wall, and that was just a given that he'd be Elim shortly after.
We're hauling out. Pretty calm. They've got loot, they've got mats, they've got kind of everything they need here. All you got to look out for at this point of the match is damage. It's kind of risky to play fully on congested side, you know, if you're thinking about how to rotate in these lobbies. You know, ideally, you want to run into the least amount of people as possible in theory and get the best position, but sometimes the best position won't open up a lot of opportunities to get that damage. So if you're looking for a primed up position, you want to make sure you have a good amount of eliminations or damage before that. And if not, the prime position for you might be looking at the congested side. For Doxy Pablo, you know now. It's been an interesting run for them so far in these first couple matches. They do very good in the early game, but kind of fall off and crumble in the mid to late game, leaving Pablo as a solo both times. So hopefully this time around they not only find that success here, but also continue with that momentum throughout the rest of the match.
I think it's also just been the fact that they've just been caught kind of off guard by teams just hunkered down in cutoff moments for their rotates. I think that's a big part of the reason why they seem to be trying to clear out space before they actually make their move forward. They know these are teams that are already hurt. They've been in these outskirt positions fighting for a while. We can just play cleanup crew essentially, as Chino now making the approach, getting 2 separate angles. This is what makes it so devastating to try and fight into Prodoxy's team, though. They're just all so strong at taking these separate angle engagements. Chino, though, not the shot that he was hoping for. Trying to get that angle, and instead loses a little bit of his HP for it, but Prodoxy still on the other end of things, with Pablo looking to try and collapse onto Azza and his teammate. Overhead, though, they've got to be real wary. All these shots drawing some attention.
Yeah, you can see the attention you were talking about on the bottom right in the mini-map. Full trio getting closer, but Prodoxy just needs one big shot to connect, but once again he goes down, full-on eliminated. A perfect opportunity for the trio hunting them down to go on in. It's actually going to be Hyper, Ghost, and Jules, so you wouldn't expect them to have a set plan for this part of the map, you know, switching their drop to Flooded, but a third party can happen anytime, anywhere. And once they find out that there's not a single full trio, it's going to allow them to kind of play that extra aggressive play style.
This is about to be bad news bears for one, if not both of those teams, though. Chino and Pablo, they know that we've been here entirely too long. We need to just get out. On the other hand, though, Ghost, Hyper, Jewel, they've already found one knock. They're just going to chase out Mithrofan for the other. And Ghost finally coming to a slight lull there just because they were getting tagged from a different direction entirely, but that's kind of all that was needed. Duo situation, very easy for a full team to chase down, especially when they had such an upper hand in positioning.
This is looking good, actually. From last game where they got height, but just crumbled when it was contested, running out of materials. Now, hopefully, they can have a better shot at it. They're kind of set up for it. Sinet, Nafrizi, Wheat, on the other hand, I mean, this trio has been playing incredibly safe, so I'm curious to see how much damage they actually have. 68 players up.
It's definitely awkward, though, for teams that are having to invest time looking for the reboot moments in comparison to trios like Nafrizi's that are already kind of just rolling through, trying to get established in good areas where they can see who else is approaching and also maybe try and prevent them from coming their direction. Giras, Frenek, Dinas, though, inside of Utopia City. They've got elevation, but clearly other teams in the area taking notice of where they boxed up at.
Taking a look at Sky Jump. Oh, Fred is actually back in the game now with Chino and Pablo. It's gonna be Momsy on the other end. You never really want to get into a fight after rebooting with, you can see the gray shotguns, low amount of mats, low amount of heals, but Skyjump, Momsy, and Refscard, I don't think are in the best position either. They did have basically all of Crime City, though, so they should be looted up. They already have those initial 3 eliminations. I don't think they want to take any more risks.
Never hurt to try and find more surge, but Chino nearly had an opening opportunity there onto Momsy. Now Momsy and Skyjump, they're just gonna begin their dash, rotates away. This is a big win, though, for Ferdoxy's team, that they're not gonna have to deal with that pressure any further. Teeny, Svi, and Trulex. Same can't be said for them. Teams clearly wary of the direction that they're headed. They try to cut across Utopia City, kind of hovering more towards that low side, hoping that that natural map terrain is going to provide enough coverage away from Frenek and Co.
Now the zone has pulled off to such an out, though. It looks like it is going more east, so Ashi and his trio are going to have to focus more on the rotate here than the trios and players around them, which is Rax and Belusi. Ooh. That does not look too good, Taco.
Could just be that losing Zangief, that might have been the one holding on to most of their surge, but Rax gonna take that shield crack as his green light to get active. Firen immediately shuts that dream down, though. Rax eliminated. It is exclusively down to Belusi to turn this one around, and that's just not going to be the case. Kashi, Relvis, and Firen fighting back. That is a big win for them, though. 2 really nice refreshes there.
2 really nice loot llamas coming their way. Quick one-day delivery. Ghost Hyper Jewel. I'm excited to see how they play out this late game. Always curious to see, after switching drops, how they're able to do, but so far so good. This is where it gets a bit complicated, though. They are going to refresh their dashes with that dash sprite, and once they see where this zone ends up pulling, hopefully make a play towards it, but Chino, Ferdoxy, and Pablo, they have damage, but they are not in a great situation. That reboot really put them behind in terms of positioning, in terms of loot, materials. They're going to have to rely on a refresh, but with the amount of damage that they were able to do in the play-ins, with how dominant they've been fighting throughout this season, wouldn't be surprised if they're able to pick one up.
Between 2-tick zones and being underneath damage or surge threshold, Loki, QB, Sangil, just scrambling to try and come up with some sort of damage. Instead, it's going to be Sangil losing his life here. That's first elimination of the trio. Saya, Ricky, Zada doing what they can just to maintain this established position on the hill, but even they know they want to get out of here. They don't want to get caught in last-second congestion on this next rotate. They're going to be headed straight into the heart of the rest of the lobby, it seems like. So QB, the last one left from his team, just trying to get in, but everybody else just cutting him off, and it's just not going to be possible. Chino, Pablo, and Fradoxy, seemingly the final boss as teams try to make this crossover through Utopia City.
Never really liked the water in these final zones. I mean, it's fun to watch, but as a player, it's not as enjoyable. At least there's a good amount of mobility this season, so you can get the job done. You can see a lot of the players kind of choosing to be based up on the ridge or just anywhere that's a bit elevated. I want to see more from Shark, Blaha, and Comeback in this match. Our eyes have been on them, but still waiting to see some big plays coming from them. Now being just 12 above, they're kind of on the edge here. Good news is so much vision that they have those options to get that damage, but this is going to be a tough zone.
An initial hiccup, though, for Fradoxy's team, having to play for that reboot, putting a little bit of a damper in their initial rotational plan. So now they're caught, stuck inside all this fairy layer congestion, and Gino, Fradoxy, Pablo trying to keep their wits about them, but they're just taking shots from every direction. And now Gino just trying to misform back to the top, see if he can reunite with his team. Fradoxy, the healthiest one out of the three, forced into the water, forced to ultimate low, hoping that nobody sees him, because Chino not able to escape. Pablo, he's danced around for so long, but he's not going to be able to withstand the lobby pressure either. And now Fradoxy can play that medkit if he wants to buy a little bit of time playing from backside of zone, but this is looking like a rough journey right now.
You know, at least it's not Pablo having to solo clutch it. We got Fred now. Issue is, he's got no mats, but a quick shot is going to be enough to pick up the Siphon. The issue is a whole other player goes down. He's going to get, what, 22 HP, 1v2, no mats at that point. It's only so much you can do. Ricky is going to finish that up, and now continue on forwards.
It's not like it really left them in all that great of a position, though. Maciak for Hawa, Kaisers. They're set up nice and pretty. I'm gazing over at where Kolbnoya and Kovacs are at separate height approach. Oh, and nearly getting a nice shot there with the DMR. Like this wraparound rotate, though. Use this cliff face as a little bit of natural terrain coverage to get into this next edge of zone. Committing a lot of hard material, though, to this carp out, just trying to claim as much space as he can. And fully depending on his team to potentially find the next opening. If they can just clear out one or two elims, that could set themselves up for their next rotate.
Really could now. The pressure's on with 75, now up to 124 below. The Storm Surge taking. Meds being split up, players below them, they know. All they need are a few shots to connect here. Blaha's been fully cracked. Don't want to use all your heals here, but they've been low for the past couple zones. They've been unable to get a good amount of damage, so now is when the pressure really is on.
But they're just 6 below here, Takata, and low ground is going to be the best spot for them to try and find a straggler or two, get a good connecting shot. Shark finds piece of one. Maciak gonna lose his shield entirely as Shark now closing in. Maciak also suffering from this surge thick damage. That's another trio just in so much trouble here, but Combat can't escape. It's just a cluster in the low ground. Shark now trying to get overhead. Perhawa gonna be the only one playing out his medkit, but with the surge thick damage to boot and the lobby focus, he's just trapped behind everyone else.
Just too much focus. It's way too difficult to make yourself hidden in these moments. Brawlhalla, though, has somehow made it into zone almost. 15 HP as the med kit's gonna be popped. No, all the metal builds. I don't know if he's gonna have enough time. The mist, though, is gonna give him just a bit more heals as he runs on in. Somehow has done it. The issue is just a handful of builds left. Runs into a full trio. Rickbor on the other end of the door, and it looks like Hyper, Jewel, and Ghost, they might look for this high ground early on once again.
This is the right intention, too, for Jewel, Hyper, and Ghost. Last lobby, they had hype. The issue was they just ran too low on material by the time they started getting challenged by other teams for that height take. Blaha underneath has the misform, get himself forward, but with no materials, he has to find an immediate knock. Will pick up 3 builds along the way, but needs to see if he can find this solo directly underneath him. Knows that there's a member there, but so does Ogre. He's not trying to give him a chance. Blaha, 1 build is all that remains. If he doesn't find this next elimination ASAP, Takada, he might not even have the HP to try and play with it for much longer.
I kind of like the position. The issue is there's a lot of trios close by, and that's not what you want to run into as a solo, as Blaha's now thinking of his options. 1 build on the board, cooldown running low on that misform, is going to be able to use it as he puts himself not fully ahead of zone, but in a great position here actually to withstand just a bit longer. Sened is gonna go down. 1 quick pump is all that it took. The refresh comes through now. He has the mats, but unfortunately, Refsguard is gonna finish it.
The dangers of playing backside of zone. You forced to give away your position when you're just looking for any kind of refresh. Pick up the 4 refs, give him a little bit more material to work with. Doesn't have a time or any sort of relief. Height spraying down into where he was just at, and that's the kind of control that you need to see from the team on height. You want to punish these players in the lower layers. It's Kovacs, also solo, just so many teams losing a member or 2 along the way. And Refsguard just found another big elimination, but unfortunately spotted out and will finally meet his end in this lobby.
Good amount of eliminations. Looking very bright for Ghost and his trio up above as well. They weren't able to hold on to height last game. Now they have another shot at it with just 8 trios up and running. They're getting closer and closer to being able to close this one off. So many solos doing what they can. Rickbor goes down. Skavi with a huge pickup now, doing what he can for Trulex and Teeny as the medkit's gonna come through. A bit of heal off as Jewel now has to decide, okay, are we gonna play this heal off? Are we gonna drop down? Are there any teams on second height that are looking to contest us? How do we end up winning this match?
That could be a big pickup for Firen, but unfortunately, Dwag looking to shut that one down. Dommel jumps in, but that was a little bit too aggressive there. Kashi, Relvis, Firen immediately taking full advantage of those last-minute jump-ins, but Hyper going back overhead. This is going to make things really difficult now for Kashi and Firen to withstand the pressure. Big refreshes. Dan DeBuzo and Howley somehow still skirting by in this low ground, and so much loot in the backside of the zone.
The fight for height begins. Firen, is he going to be able to hold on to it? Looks like it wasn't even much of a fight at all. They instantly gave it up, but actually, they're looking for the chop down. Just 2 more builds connected. Hyper, can you do it? The chop comes through as now the trio up above is going to fall down. This battle means everything. They have to be careful with the players down low. They could disrupt this initial challenge, but it looks like Kashi and his trio are going to continue holding on to the high ground.
Nobody has any materials. Finally, Hyper takes out Howley. That type of material could be the ultimate difference maker here. Takada, team on height, still looking to see if they can play this to their advantage. They're going to finally get chopped out. Kashi, though, immediately loses Relvis and Firen, but he can't withstand it. Jewel take over at the very last second. It was so down to the wire here, Takada, but High ground ultimately paid off.
They got the job done. From Demon's Domain in game 1, Ghost Hyper Jewel, they were contested. They said, you know what? We got high ground in game 2. We weren't able to close it off. Let's play it safe for this next match. We'll land flooded frogs. We'll play for height once again. You can see exactly how they ended up overtaking it. And this time around, they did actually run out of the materials, but it was in those final moments where all they had to do was take that 3 versus 3 and being able to land their shots, being able to come out on top is what granted them that spot in the EU Major 3 finals.
Everybody had to essentially win their runs, and that's exactly what took place for the most part here. Jewel was just on fire with that unstable yoink. The benefits of having that exotic at the last moment there could not have been a bigger thing to witness, Takata. But of course, that's not the only thing we saw. We've got our lovely Des to take it from here.
All I'm saying is, guys, you've got to rib it to win it, because there is something about flooded frogs that makes winners this season of Fortnite. Levin, how did you feel about that win from Julian team? Because this is more of a rookie team compared to some of our other trios, but they showed that high ground take before wasn't just a fluke, and actually it was something they could make good on in the end.
Yeah, this time around, right? I feel like they managed the situation a lot better, didn't they? They didn't have as many threats in terms of people going for it, but they applied the pressure needed to hold on in the crucial moments.
Yeah, and I think when the team did decide to try and jump up and try and take height off them, they sort of gave it up a lot better. They didn't try and fight it. They understood their situation. They dropped down, and what they did really well was they actually got back together as soon as they could. It was like a game of zero build then at the end, wasn't it? Just everyone just trying to fight each other, but it was a really nicely played game from these guys, and a sign of hopefully for what's to come when it comes to the major finals. They now have first dibs on a drop spot that they can choose in terms of where the what the drop map's going to look like, so we'll see how that can change as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a great game for them. I think Jewel, when you look at Jewel, especially Hyper and Jewel, both players who, again, you might not be familiar with them if you're watching EU. They're not players who are typically in the grand finals of FNCS as often. Hyper and Ghost making their first, Jewel's been in one. But they're players who are always making waves in like some of the previous rounds, like the semis and, you know, different group stages and whatnot. So the talent's definitely there. Hopefully we can see them apply it in the final.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how our Major 3 final lobby is going to be shaping up. We have 2 more teams to send through via Victory Royales and 5 more to confirm through consistency. So let's head into this break, and when we come back, we'll have game number 4.
Ai, porra! Acaba saindo bem na hora.
Welcome back to FNCS Major 3. I'm so excited to be in the Group 1 action that my headphones keep falling out because I'm just wobbling my head like, what's happening? What's going on? And what happened in Game 3? Luckily, I have 11-2K and Mini Miner to talk about with me. That was a really difficult game for a lot of our trios. That 7th zone, the water zone, was really a giant eliminator. But let's talk about some of the trios that were particularly affected. Mini Miner, we saw Fredoxy fighting for his position in the game underneath a building at one point.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for a lot of our teams. Sakata mentioned it on the cast. Those water zones, they're great to watch. I mean, when I'm not playing, I absolutely love watching them because there's a lot of chaos and nobody knows what's going on. But for the players, that's exactly the problem. It's really, really tough to make those rotations. And we saw some teams do it to certain degrees, some better than others. Sometimes teams can get benefit from that when it comes to surge damage, but it's so chaotic. It's so difficult. And as you mentioned, Fredoxy right there, not even in the top 10. So really struggling at the moment to really make their waves in these games.
That is quite shocking. They do have 2 more games to try and up their points and maybe get a victory royale straight through to the finals. But let's take a look at 4th place. Technically number 1 in terms of in terms of their position on the leaderboard right now. Ciao, Kaisers, Maciek. 11, are you surprised to see this trio doing so well in consistency?
Somewhat, maybe not so much. I think when you look at Pachal and Maciek, both had great seasons this year so far. I think the big thing obviously is that last game wasn't the best for them, right? It struggled a bit on Surge, where the first 2 were much smoother, and we obviously had 2 similar zones there. So, we'll see how they fare with zones that maybe aren't as favorable for them. Maybe, we see that a lot sometimes, Mini, right? We'll see teams where, like, certain zones is just, like, so comfortable, right? I feel like that's actually quite a Polish trait. Maybe we should start identifying that with a lot of our top Polish players, right? Certain zones is a breeze, others can be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I remember these guys are sort of shaping up to land sort of that west side of Flooded Frogs. We've now seen 2 teams winning from Flooded Frogs, so it seems like that whole area has seen a lot of shifts in terms of who's landing there, who's rotating where. So for these guys, you're absolutely right. I think the zone's definitely playing a big part. This zone not quite as beneficial for them. Nice little solo clutch for a little bit there from Pachawa, but it was another one of those teams that really struggled with that water-type zone. But to be honest, they're not going to be too bothered. 147 points, 4th place, first on that consistency leaderboard. So ultimately, if they can keep doing what they're doing, they won't be bothered at all.
And guys, look at number 6, Trulex, Tini, and Skvi. This is a trio that only just got into the group stage in 97th place, and now they're 6th on the leaderboard, 2nd for consistency, 11.
Yeah, super consistent games for them. Again, nothing exciting, nothing that's going to sit here and make me go, yeah, this is my team going for the global championships right now. But they're doing enough to get through to the finals, which I think is an important thing for them, Mini. It's about baby steps. Let's do what we can, get to the final, and then we can work from there.
Yeah, and I think that shows a lot of experience within this team. They've all had moments to shine. They've all had moments where they necessarily haven't played that well over the years. And I think they just understand that it's just about getting over the line, not trying to overextend, try and play for height. Even playing heal off right here, we saw Skivvy getting a couple of med kits and these bandages. He's not the sort of player that's going to be like, okay, let's just run in there. Maybe a little bit of a less experienced player would think, let's try and win the game. Let's try and solo clutch as much as possible. It's all about trying to get as many placements as they can. So for these guys right now, again, it's very similar. More of the same. Are they going to play for height? Probably not. But are we going to see them in that top 5 at the end of the day? I wouldn't be surprised if we did.
I don't know if we have time to see the leaderboard and check out page 2. It'll be interesting to see where Fredox's trio are currently standing. I think it was 13th going into this game, because obviously they've got a bit of a hill to climb now.
Yeah,
13th, so they can definitely do it. Convex Shark and Blacker, though, this is definitely a trio that I think we're expecting to see in the top 10 at the end of these next 2 games, Mini.
Yeah, well, they had a really good start, didn't they? They had a really solid start. They were playing those mid-ground layers really well. We saw them have a really good end game, and it hasn't quite gone the same for them, especially in that last game, Levin. You'd expect a lot better considering the placement of the zone compared to where they drop.
Well, yeah, they were one of the teams that struggled with the zone, right? On that zone 7 pool, when it's like going towards Utopia City, they were having to traverse across the water. They ended up having to take a fight because they were below on surge, right? So it's not just struggling for the rotation. It's struggling to actually just even like stay in the game on damage. A couple uncharacteristic, missed shots from Shark there as well in one of those fights, and they end up going down as a result. But they're just on the bubble there, right? There's still a couple more games for them to get it done.
And meanwhile, inside the top 10, we have Howley and his trio. Not necessarily a team that I was going to get guaranteed top 10, but they're looking really comfortable at the moment, Levin.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a team with, you know, a bunch of experience in top EU lobbies, and so I think, again, they're starting to get comfortable in these ones. You're seeing here controlling space on low ground. It's something that, again, you see the best teams doing. And I think for these guys, if they can keep playing this way, they'll be, you know, breezing their way through.
You expecting that mini minor? Do you think we're going to see some changes after this next game in that top 10, given that there are some big names just outside?
Yeah, well, remember, this is, of course, the last 2 games, so these guys really need to try and go for the win if they're below on the leaderboard, so we'll have to see what these teams are going to do.
Well, let's see what they're going to do in Game 4 with Taco and Takata.
After the first 3 games today and a couple of our Victory Royale teams coming out of Flooded Frogs, Takata, I'm very interested to see who actually tries to take over that POI. But Game 4 will let us know.
The good news is you don't have to wait long. Just 2 more matches to be played out. There's a lot of big names kind of on that borderline. So technically, you know, with the 5 trios that qualify through the Victory Royale, the other 5 through consistency, it's kind of like that top 10 that you're looking to get. Now, for Doxy, Pablo, and Chino, despite being kind of the #1 trio going in from the play-ins, they're in 13th spot, which is the same as where they placed in the last major, having to qualify through the last chance qualifier. Refsguard, on the other hand, here in Crime City, is also just kind of outside that borderline, which honestly scares me, Taco, because he has literally not qualified in the last 2 majors by 1 placement on the leaderboard. Literally 1 spot on the leaderboard away from qualifying in the last 2 major in groups. So hopefully this time around, being in 15th now, they can not only win this early game engagement, but also secure themselves a spot in the major finals.
Well, this is a big come up currently at Crime City. Probably one of the fastest decisive fights that we've seen for the off spawn. But yeah, Refsguard definitely needs a win. It's been a while since we've seen him in a finals. I believe even stemming all the way through Chapter 5. He was not able to find his way in to that battle bus for a final. So 2 years in a row essentially of missing out. But I think more importantly still, we're talking about the Global Championship being in France, right? We need to see some French players. Wow. Yeah. I think that's the big thing I'm also keeping an eye out for, but that'll have to be decided at a later date. Right now, Dan DePuzo, Halley, and Hizix, they're just trying to hold strong onto that consistency metric, and it does start with a good opening fight. Finding these early eliminations is going to set them up nicely for their mid game.
Yeah, this is good for the 4th match of the day. Having these kind of fights be cleaned up quickly is exactly what you need. Being able to kind of focus more on your loop path, your rotations, and setting yourself up without the risk of getting third-partied.
Slow and steady. You know that you're on your second to last match before the conclusion of Group 1. And most of these teams do not want to spend on last chance qualifier. Leech Code, that is an unfortunate misstep. You never know when teams are just setting up, catch you off guard, these outskirt positions. Antoine now trying to chase out Greg, and Greg doing what he can to get some space, but now another team in the distance. That could be the backup that Greg needs. Finally finding a little bit of breathing room to replenish some of his shield.
Hey, nice shots being connected though.
That's good teammate backup.
Player advantage. Backup coming in. This would be a nice fight to be able to clean up. Issue is 5 materials. It's always a little risky when you're fighting without mats, even if you have that upper hand. Craig now grouped up, gonna be able to pop those extra shields, and Superman spray will only help so much when a lot of the builds there cannot be destroyed.
Kind of trapped right now though, and
Ooh.
Not sold that this trio really wants to give up chasing out Craig and Wed, but they're not the only ones that are gonna have to make some decisions. Is Pablo, Wingu, Chino, and Ferdoxy. Takata, you have to remember, last major, Ferdoxy's team, they weren't in the grand finals initially. They had to actually play it through the last chance qualifier to get their seat on the battle bus. We saw the revenge tour coming out of Fordoxy when it came down to the wire there, but I know that there's one thing about, you know, setting up for dramatic effect. That's not the case here for this team. They want their seat on that battle bus. They need a big win here. And Pablo, Fordoxy, Chino, are getting some great opening shots. They'll finally be able to close this one out. Chino now with the double revive from Fordoxy and co. But yeah, it's really just the fact that they have had those handful of hiccups along the way. It's been really tough for them to get their rotates in.
Yeah, it's good they're continuing to have solid early games, though. They've been having it throughout the day, and it really does set you up for a good mid to late game. But like you said, they've had those hiccups, so, you know, hopefully fourth time is the charm. It must be a bit stressful now being just outside that leaderboard with how well they performed coming in to, like you mentioned, not qualifying through the groups in the last major. It would be nice to just get the job done today. And likewise for Thomas, Sky, and Scroll. I mean, they have a good amount of points, but, you know, it's better safe than sorry.
The silver lining is just the fact that it is 5 lobbies, so one really strong performance, it could most definitely catapult you into that consistency portion of the leaderboard. But things are still going to be a little bit shaky here for some of our teams. A lot more stealth opportunities seem to be coming into effect there. We've already seen one circumstance of a team kind of getting the jump on another, just hiding out. And Resistance base, a little bit of a fringe position on the map, right? But Lorento's team, depending on how long they stick around here at Takata, you have to remember, this is time spent that they're not getting Surge either.
But it could all pay off if they're able to pick up a few refreshes from it. The risk is a bit high, though. Zangi doesn't know that a few wrong steps could mean everything here if he tries to group up with his teammates. Because they know even when they have to leave, you know, odds are they'll hopefully walk down instead of building new structures. Time will tell, so keep an eye on the feed for Sky, Scroll, Thomas, though. Just trying to do what they can to get that damage.
Still hovering around Rolling Blossoms farm. Makes sense. Zone hasn't necessarily pulled that far away from them, so no real rush to get their steps in for some of these cross-country rotates that we've seen other teams having to make with the zones today. Lorento and Wyver looks like they weren't able to get that immediate knock onto Zangi, despite the fact that he ran smack dab into the center of where this team was hiding out. And now Zangi calling in for the troops for reinforcement. Rax, Belusi directly behind, but Timo, Lorento, the hesitation, it might draw more attention than what they're bargaining for. They've also got to really keep an eye out for Belusi and Rax underneath them.
Yeah, what do you do now, though? They already have a full, you know, hard mat build down below. You're kind of just going to trade shots. It's really difficult to go from this position to an actual winning fight. You can do a bit of damage, but it's going to take a lot of time unless a big shot does come through. 1 HP is what's left, as the mist form's going to be used now, forced to play it slow and recuperate the HP. Belusi just doing what he can to keep his team.
Yeah, Rax got sick of the wait. He was really just take matters up close and personal. Zangi fighting back though. Lorento going to be immediately knocked the moment he tries to open up, but Belusi, Rax, now they've got to back up Zangi. Their IGL has fallen for the time being. Belusi though, a bit of a health advantage here. Trying to see if he can close in. Knows that there's already 2 knock members of this team. And Rax trying to see if he can get the 3rd registered. They'll at least take their Siphon refreshes while they've got them, since they're playing inside of the storm anyway, but they weren't quick enough. Gudembri has now entered the fray.
Oh no. They heard the shots. This fight took too long. A full 3rd party gonna potentially come through. This res is going to be crucial for Belusi and his trio to withstand that 3rd party after this fight, but being in zone, this is just not a great look.
Oh man, this is a completely separate team too, so it's not even like Wyver's going to be able to warn Zangi, since those are the guys they were fighting initially anyway. But Cade, Virkvor, Gudembri, just sticking it out next to that reboot van. This is just not going to be an option for Rax and Belusi. They are just simply trying to crouch walk their way out of where all the commotion's taking place. They know this is overstaying their welcome. And they'll just hope that maybe K or Kudenbri, they decide to rotate first. That's gonna maybe give them a chance to utilize this reboot, but no matter the decision out of Cade's team, for right now, it's just gonna be take a lap time for Belusi.
Yeah.
Salve, Edu.
Meanwhile,
Como é que você tá, mano? Boa
on the
tarde,
other
mano.
side of the
Valeu aí.
map,
Seja bem-vindo,
I'm
mano.
trying to think what went down here. There's so many trios just kind of boxed around this mountain, this hill.
Chegando aqui, tropa. Eu tava lidando
Some
com a mamãe
waiting,
ali, tá
some trying to find an
afastado,
exit.
mas
They're
estamos
in
aí.
zone, but as the clock continues ticking, as you have 3 open inventory slots with no heals, you really gotta wonder, you know, what's gonna be the play
Série
moving
Europa,
forward.
Ai, funcionando aí.
It's not shocking to see them so pressed, though, for mats and loadouts. They had to spend so much early game time just playing for the reboot. And obviously the audio cue drew the attention of another team, locking them down. Shark comeback Blaha, though, on the other side, next to Shining Span, kind of hovering around the gas station. Always likely to expect teams maybe wanting to farm a little bit of excess metal. And it's also just the fact that they're just trying to hold an edge position.
Euros, Krennic, and Dinas, though, are quite deep into the zone here. They've also traveled the most out of any team, as you can see from the quick stat, and you know, it shows them doing it once again. Sometimes it could be from unlucky zones, sometimes it could just be from your playstyle if you tend to take those safer rotates, but you know, so far they don't look like they're in much trouble, just making sure they're farming on the way, making sure they're kind of setting themselves up.
Kind of see the way that the map is beginning to unfold, though. Some of those storm-hugging teams, as they start to press a little bit more inwards. Gonna have to be careful of watching overhead. A lot of teams already finding box positions on slight points of elevation. Teeny, Trulex, V. It's not gonna be super flashy, but to ever count Trulex out of a conversation for consistency in a set lobby type of environment, it's truly not shocking in the slightest to see that these guys are leading on the leaderboard for the consistency.
Conseguiram total de danos
They have the stage set for them. They don't have to take any risks in the late game here. They don't have to force themselves onto high ground. They just have to make it and do what they can to keep getting a bit of eliminations, a bit of placement. It's kind of the best position you can be in these lobbies, especially in, you know, the final matches where a lot of the trios that are incredibly low on the leaderboard are going to be playing extra aggressive towards that high ground and towards anything that can kind of give them that win condition, whether it be a fight or even just positioning. But you know, so far, a lot of the trios that already have a decent amount of points are kind of choosing the safer route. They know Storm Surge might not hit as hard, and they kind of have that freedom to play a bit slower.
Shark hiding out for a moment. Faded and Tex don't seem to have any indication that Shark is even down here. Smart trap set, leaving that chest unopened. So that way Faded doesn't really have a reason to expect anything going down. But if he extends even a little bit further on that ramp, we might see a little bit of a mishap there for Shark, but continues to go by unnoticed. Certainly by now, starting to throw up a couple of kills behind him potentially. He's almost expecting that a shot's going to be sent his way eventually there.
Making sure he's safe. Low-key, Sandguild. By Supernova now, just trying to see what Cade is up to. On the side. Do they know?
Plus about whether Sandguild and his team know. They're definitely looking for someone. So they are fully aware. You know, Cade's not out of the thick of it just yet. He's managed to escape that little segment of builds, but he's just gonna hope that Loki and his team decide to make an early departure with the storm closing in. even with them leaving, though, I would expect them to kind of just keep looking back, and that could potentially hold Cade inside Storm for a much longer period than what he was actually looking for. Nice shots, though, out of Momsy, Skyjump, and Refscar. That's a big refresh, max material. This is looking like a solid loadout here for Momsy, and I'm sure that the other members of this team are rocking pretty similar things.
100%. Good positioning here on the snowy side of the map. Nice little mountain to base up on. Interesting that Howley is actually leading the pack in terms of eliminations at double digits with 10. They have 3 as a trio this match, but a majority of those eliminations do come in the later half of the match. So, especially in these final games, you really don't want to be taking those risks unless it's completely necessary and you're lower down on the board. So,
it's clear, though, that some teams have different incentives in this 4th lobby. Trying to get a strong closure for a high placement could really be the separating factor here, as Craig does take out Tex. Faded could be in a serious, I was going to say it's going to be a bit of a hindrance, but of course it's going to be a problem. He's not even going to be able to get out. He actually gets knocked along the way. Craig and Wed, they're still needing to fight potentially. No, that immediate shift out, but loses his shields entirely, can never afford to keep a wall open too long. These DMRs kind of hovering around.
914 above, even with a teammate down. Quite impressive. So now they want to increase that number. The aggression coming through. You can see this is a trio that needs a big match, and they're going to do what they can to get it.
Yeah, and we can see the moment where things truly went south there for Faded. Wed just completely catching that nice flank angle, and then also providing backup for his teammate. That Tex secondary elimination. It's gonna be a real damper there, but for Gudem Brigade, last thing on their mind is what might be left behind them. They've got to get a move into the zone, and not only that, Takata, but they need to find a fight immediately. They're just continuing to get peppered from pretty far out distances, and this is a really tough position to be in, because you're getting tagged by Surge, you're getting tagged by the players in the lobby, and you're trying to take a fight, but you just don't have the health to do it. Gudembri gonna immediately get shut down. Cade knocked as well, and that is all she wrote. Vigren and the Ox will get that double revive on their knocked member. A big loss there. Could have been a nice come up, but instead, just gonna have to sit and wait for that final lobby to come through.
Yeah, that was quick too. That did not last long at all. I'm happy to see Thomas, Sky, and Skrull kind of suited up, kitted up to have a solid end game here. To be fair, if they have a good enough match, it could be enough to just straight up qualify them through consistency. They've started so strong already. Just one more big match is all they really need. So Ned doing what he can to stay up above and take those shots onto the players rotating on in.
There's going to be a nasty zone, though, for some of these teams. When you have Island so deep inside of the zone, teams are definitely going to be taking note of the hype plays. For Hawa, hoping to get some surge damage on team behind, still sitting 3 below. Instead, we'll have to take a moment to heal. But Thomas HD, Sky Scroll, they fly on in with those misforms. And the opportunity now being lost for Prahala, Kaisers, and Maciak. They're trying to shift, look at different angle, see if they can find another unsuspecting team. 33, still 1 below.
There we go.
2 more to settle it, and it's Trulex that's fallen. Prahala, Kaisers, Maciak, they want it, but they can't afford to get caught in the lobby congestion.
Oh no, I don't like the look of this. A potential trio that's going to fight Thomas if they need Surge, and now Kaiser's up above, ready to kind of take those shots down below. I don't like the look for any of the trios on this side of the zone now that they also have to rotate along kind of the east side here. Kaiser's Brawlhalla have to kind of plan their rotate. They could rotate behind these players. Some maybe even Have to be careful from that island. Luckily enough, we know that there's nobody up there currently. Shark, Blaha, Comeback. We've been waiting for a big match. Will this be the one? 446 above. They don't have those early game eliminations, but their eyes are on the final parts of this match.
Blaha and Comeback are just trying to establish a position that will allow Shark to do what he does best, and that is just get fraggy. But first, gonna have to try and settle the score here. Pablo, Fredoxy, Chino, they are sick of being left out of that top-end discussion here today. First 3 lobbies clearly not going the way they had originally intended. Just 1 or 2 things completely sending their game plan south. And a lot of it having to do too with some of these zones being very difficult for them to actually traverse through. But for Hala, Kaiser's Maziak immediately lobby focused the moment that they tried to shift where they were left standing. And Zada claiming Farhada, just not allowing any sort of recovery opportunity here. And now Kaiser's looks to try and play inside of the storm. He's going to be forced to just maybe use this medkit, but definitely hoping that he's going to be able to hang back.
Yeah, this is not the opens. This is not the play-ins. When you're at the group stage, you're up against the best of the region. They're not going to be missing their shots. So you have to be extra cautious when flying down from above and choosing your rotates, picking your paths. As Kaisers is just doing what he can to stay up, but it's a matter of time at this point. He has some med kits, a bit of minis, but to fully clutch this one out, 182 below. Thomas Sky Scroll just applying pressure non-stop. It's gonna be a tough one.
The only saving grace there really being that Thomas Sky and Scroll recognize we want to be able to continue boxing up in favorable positions. Team on height, very peak of that mountaintop though, Craig. They've got a solid position. Trulex, double revive effective from Skvee and Teeny earlier on, but so much lobby focus on that rotate. They go right into the heart of zone and everybody just picking them apart for it. Teeny, the only one left, just trying to build all around them, but he's just got 3 shield potions, Takata, and so many players surrounding him.
A lot of weight on Teeny's shoulders for this second to last match. I mean, they're in 6th place right now, so they're in qualifying range, but anything can change in these last matches, so hopefully he's going to be able to clutch it up. Kaisers goes down. We saw the difficulty that he had moving forward from that zone. Thomas Sky Scroll making good use of the mist form to get on in. They have more than enough damage, materials, almost everything they need. They just do not want to get cracked here. They don't want to get lobby focused, and those extra mats are going to be worth it.
Not sold on how many heals they actually had, though. Even if you got damage, if you don't have HP working your way back up, these mountainous zones are going to be so problematic. Everyone having to expend so much material. Some players looking to try and tag along from the backside of zone. Franek, Dinas, Giras from the low ground. Haven't encountered anybody else just yet, but wave above, Rax, Zangi, Belusi starting to establish some priority positioning. Craig, Wed, and Lichko, they've already got control of it, though. And this lobby might just fall into their hands if nobody's able to contest them.
Zone is pulling back. Island is going to be inside of this zone that pulls back. As Giras doing what they can to stay ahead. They were blessed with a perfect zone. And it looks like Revsguard's going to be the trio that's trying to contest this low ground. Still 15 trios up. This is just the start of the end game. But Comeback already in issues.
Comeback drops immediately. Shark, Blaha there to play supportive measures. But this is now time. They're going to have to sit and wait for Comeback to heal up. They might get caught in a little bit of the congestion on their next move out. Pablo for Chino. Big refresh there. Taking down Azat, throwing the bodies back into their space claimed. Big refresh though for a leading trio as far as firepower goes, but they need to keep things rolling.
Rennick continuing down below, but have yet to fight another full trio on the low ground, just trying to apply pressure from the side. Blaha is going to get fully cracked. He has to be careful here at the zone. Is pulling further and further. They recuperate their charges on the dashes as Pablo, Fred, and Chino are doing what they can, even if it takes building on into zone. Are they going to look back up? But Pablo's gone down. They're going to have to play slower. They're going to have to pick up their teammate. Luckily enough, though, they are in front of zone. The issue is all the players are coming right towards them.
Scroll knows what's going down. Scroll's trying to break into their box. Wants to prevent that double revive. So much pressure applied, but material count incredibly low. Pablo, Chino, Fordoxy, they're back up and running as a full trio. And now Combeck from the low ground can't make it in. Just gonna be waiting it out for lobby 5, but frontside is getting so dicey right now. Inside of the low ground, Thomas loses Scroll, trying to see if he can come up with something. He needs to just get any kind of siphon. Will pop his last small shield potion, buy himself a little bit more HP, a little bit more time. Split cost across the board here, though, with himself and Sky. There's a lot of players left in the background, and Thomas trying to see if he can get Dinas or Gears for it. Instead, dashes just a little bit too far on that escape route. And he's cleaned up by the storm.
It looks like high ground, though. It might be getting overthrown, but you have to be careful when high ground is touching the island. You're just going to start floating as the players are now flying around above, thinking, what do we do? Do we go up to the island? Do we stay down? Chino's finds the position he wants to claim, and now in the clouds, the opportunity to shoot down below. The issue is, where is this final zone going to pull?
It doesn't matter, because right now they're not caught in the heat of battle here. All these teams stuck underneath the island. Gires, Franek, just trying to fight it out, but they're not going to be able to escape. These elevation shifts are just simply too brutal. Franek from the backside, he's going to come through on that misform, but Fordoxy way up above. If it comes to heal off, he's got it covered. Chino will get cleaned up, though. The moment that he drops, Fordoxy now trying to see if he can settle the score by bringing the battle a little bit closer to himself. Instead, he pops right back up. It's so hard to control the directional hang, but it doesn't matter because teams, again, still clearing each other out in the low ground.
Dropping like flies, placement after placement. Fred, Pablo, they're already in the top 5. All he's doing is floating. How long can he hold on is the question. He has no heals, so he cannot really play heal off here, but they're getting more than enough placements to make this worth it.
But the zone pulled over the island tip, so Fordoxy's going to be able to have natural terrain coverage from the action underneath. Momsy, Revsguard, just trying to frag out. They've got to get proactive. Revsguard immediately drops. He knows there's got to be somebody else, a solo, lingering nearby. Revsguard, though, can't close it out. And the Freezy's team now wondering, where is this last player at? But Fordoxy, only a single slurp barrel. He's got to find White Heal somewhere.
He won't take damage in bird form, but it's got a 15-second cooldown, and now that he's used it, he's gonna be put into panic. Sened Wheat trying to find anything they can, but as Fordoxy goes down, gets the second place finish, Wheat and his trio are gonna close it out and make their way to the finals.
A big win as well for Nefrizi's team. Because if Fordoxy had any form of white heals there, Takata, we might be looking at a completely different outcome here. But they stuck with it inside of the low ground. The way that those zones pulled, all those elevation shifts, they were able to just keep tearing through. And despite what looked like was going to be a very problematic endgame, they were still able to stay intact and pull things through.
100%. A deserved victory royale for Nefrizi, Sened, and Wheat. Congratulations to them to making it to the major finals, but also congratulations to Chino, Pablo, Fordoxy, and Revsguard. An amazing placement as they were not in qualifying range. All we have left is one more match, so let's go to those 3 beautiful faces and let us know if we missed anything.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to Wheat's trio for making it through to the Major 3 finals in a couple of weeks' time. I have to say that was the most adorable endgame I've ever seen in FNCS mini minor. Like Nefrizi's trio just being like, "Where's Fordoxy? Where's it gone?"
Adorable is one way of putting it. Chaotic.
Yeah, I wouldn't have used
It was not the word I was thinking when I was watching that, to be honest. I didn't know what was going on for a lot of that endgame. But for Wheat, Nefrizi, and Sened, they were thriving in the chaos. Really nicely played game from these guys. They stuck together. Of course, they were in that top sort of 10 situation. I think there was 7th going into this last game right here. So they were already in contention. They just needed to keep the consistency going. And I think it just panned out quite well for them, Levin. The fact that height was just a complete mess. They could just play out low ground really well.
Yeah, these guys, an interesting finish. An interesting finish, to say the least. Yeah, sure, yeah. Some people would say adorable. I know someone who would say adorable. I mean, they cleared things out, you know, with relative ease there. And I think this is a really good team. 3 very experienced players, 3 players who have grand finals experience. And so they were one of those teams I had on my list of people I'd expect to make it through.
I just want a highlight reel of Fred just like flying down from the islands. Oh no, actually I'm going to go back to the islands. I'm just going to go between, cut to a song from a 90s band called The Venga Boys. So if anyone can make that happen for me, then please let me know. Anyway, I'm going to go to a short break because when we come back, game number 5, let's find out who's going to be qualifying for the finals.
Final já chegou, o troféu final chegando aí. Termina aí a... Sim. Termina agora a quinta partida, né? A quinta rodada do game e já temos classificado para a próxima etapa. E ainda não é a etapa que estará Dom Bill e Bagulho do Chato. E Cachau é o trio que vai participar da próxima FNCS. Tem a versão Europa, tem a versão norte-americana, sul-americana, asiática e vai ter a versão da roça. Ai, Betânia, não quer dessa então, caralho. Ai, desculpa, gente, eu me descontrolei. Tem que ir lá no Renato. Esquece. Não. Acho que não, né? Eu também tô esperando pra ele continuar. Eu taco ali de uma vez. Acho que nem cabe mais. Já não cabia direito, né? Valeu aí, canal. Valeu aí, mano. Vou aproveitar que tem uma parada aqui pra lá na batida, né?
Before the break, Nefrizzi, Sinead and we went through to the Major 3 Grand Finals, and there's just one more Victory Royale ticket left in this lobby tonight, so we're going to find out who's going to be taking it very shortly. That was a very interesting endgame. We did discuss it before the break, but it mostly consisted of chaos on the low ground, and then Fredoxy trying to work out if he had enough heals to get him through to the win 11.
That's a way to put it. The way I'd put it is, Fredoxy was getting rage baited by the lobby. Like, the zone is just not pulling to the island for like a whole minute, it felt like. And he's just there gliding. And it's like one of those zones, really, where, you know, if you're up there on the island, you're thinking, yes, I'm on the island, I get all this cover. And it's just like, the zone's just pulling right in between. And it pulls on it for a second, and it pulls off of it again. And it's going towards the other one, but it's not quite there yet. It's taking its time. And it was just so frustrating for him. I know he must have been fuming at that moment. And then obviously in the end, you know, it doesn't have the heal off. There's only one barrel. There's not really much he can do there. But still a fantastic game in the context of how their tournament has been going, Mini.
Yeah, super impressive for these guys. Of course, they haven't really been doing that great. They're outside of that top 10 in that going into that last game. And I think the fact that Wheat, Nefreezy, and Sinad actually won the game has actually benefited Fredoxy and Co. because, of course, they were just outside. Now a team that was inside of that consistency qual has now already qualified through the win. So now it just bumps them up even more. You can see them there in 7th place. Really nice position for them to find themselves in. Of course, not done and dusted yet. And I think a lot of people, myself included, were expecting them to come out with a win today. But it really doesn't matter how they make it as long as they do.
This is a trio that I would associate with being aggressive in their early games and just really guaranteeing that surge. Do you think that they're going to maybe hold back slightly going into the next one, Levin?
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that because I'd agree that they are a team that's super aggressive. But I feel like at times today they have been holding back a bit more than maybe I'd expect. There's been a couple moments where I thought maybe if they hadn't been a bit more aggressive, you know, it could have benefited them. So we'll see what they pull out in this last game. Mini's talking about them needing a win. Hey, one more game, they can still do it.
They could still do it. And you know who else could do it? Refsguard. We talked about him earlier today and was saying, you know what, he needed to have a strong game to get into the top 10. He's had a strong couple of games now, and he's been looking individually on form, Mini.
Yeah, he has. This is a really nice game for these guys, a game that they needed as well, boost them into that sort of top 5 contention. So really important. But I think what the most important thing for them now is going to be this next off-spawn battle. They've been on a little bit of a nice run here, Levin, but now it all comes down to this. Are they going to be contested? What's it going to look like? I'd imagine they will be, but it's all about that battle. If they can win it and then have a decent enough end game, they should be in that top 5.
Looking at the top 10 as well, just to see, Thomas was looking fairly comfortable in the top 10 earlier. Now he's on the precipice of falling out of it. We do not want the curse of Thomas coming one place short of making it to the next stage to happen today, Levin. Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything.
Why on earth would you even speak that into existence right now, Frankie? I don't like these bad vibes. That's real bad energy from you, Frankie.
I'm sorry, we've just got so many Danish players already qualified, okay?
You gotta be careful with how we use our tongue right now. We can't be talking about Thomas coming one placement off. That would be a nightmare for all of us. Of course, we saw it happen in Major 1, right? He didn't qualify through to the major finals and then barely missed out on the Globals qualification last major. I want to see them secure this last game. Let's all, you know, cross our fingers right now and hope they can go through.
Yeah, they have what it takes. I mean, this is a team that we know they can make it happen in endgame. It's been a little bit disjointed at times today as well. We haven't seen the best of what we can expect from this team. I'm sure they'll work on it, but of course they have to get to those major finals. And they have one more game to do it. I think if there's a team in the lobby right now that I expect to have a really solid game, it's these guys. They have great experience. Thomas State HD on the team as well, who knows how to make it happen in these moments. So I'm not too worried, maybe less worried than you, Frankie.
It's just small details, and hopefully if they can qualify through to the Major 3 finals in this game, then we'll see them iron those out. This is it, though, for Group 1, guys. Some of these players, their season in Chapter 6 ends after this game, and no one wants it to be them. Let's head to the battle bus for game number 5 with Taco and Takata.
Thank you, Frankie. I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling a bit nervous. The top 10 is looking almost like Group 1 already concluded. I mean, the names in that top 10, they're all big hitter names, but the issue is there's still one more match to be played out, and literally anything can happen in one match. A drop spot can get changed, an unlucky contestation, but all you need to do is maintain your spot if you're in that top 10. And if in the contrary, you're at the lower half of the leaderboard, you have to play for that win. And it all comes down to this, Taco.
And this is the final moment. Players do not want to leave it up to that last chance qualifier to try and find that seat on the battle bus, because as we all know, Major 3 Grand Finals, Takata, that is the last opportunity to seal your fate at the Global Championship. So our final match of the day here for Group 1 underway.
We have our leaders from the play-ins for Doxy, Pablo, Chino in the top 7. Pablo did an amazing job with some solo clutches early on, but in this final match, we want to see the whole trio playing it well. Refsguard, who's fighting for this qualification with Momsy and Skyjump. I mean, Refsguard back-to-back, not qualifying by 1 place on the leaderboard in the last 2 majors has been devastating. Even caused him to take a quick mental break and reset. So hopefully now we can see that trio perform in this last match and book themselves a spot in the finals. Thomas HD as well is literally the cutoff for that top 10.
Mas o top 10 já tá garantido.
Stressful for these teams just trying to fly into Utopia. They're already getting lit up by other members of the lobby. I got to land a little bit sooner. Hizix, having taken that early damage, it's gonna force him to play back for a moment, even if he has a weapon. Start trying to get a little bit proactive here, but this could be disastrous. Sky jump, Riftsguard. All he has is a DMR, and Skies is so healthy. They are just completely sliding by.
There's no way.
Sky jump. There is no way. I just witnessed that in 4K evidence. Is he invisible? Is he just like invisible to everybody? Revscar need that superpower. Okay,
I swear I saw him turn around twice. Oh, this is devastating for Revscar, Monzi, and Skyjump. The back-to-back one placements off qualifying, and now in the final match of the day after having won most of the previous early games. Skyjump's left alone. A potential other trio is going to take them out. 153 points is where they will end. The cutoff right now is 146. I don't know, Taco. That is a little too close.
It's a bit sickening. I'm gonna keep it so real with you, Takada. It's a little bit sick to the stomach to witness that go down, but it's not completely over just yet. Right now, they are just at the mercy of the performance of the rest of the lobby. Their best case scenario even would be one of those top consistency contenders right now on the leaderboard to find a victory royale in this match to just boost them a little bit further up from where they last stood before we entered this match. Howley, Dandy Buzo, and Hizix in a very similar fate right now to Revscar's team, though. These leading members of the leaderboard just having these early spills. It's just so detrimental to their overall game plan.
Yeah, I mean, Howley's literally number 11 right now with his trio. They're one spot off qualifying currently, so if they go down, it's 100% done for them for this group stage, at least. Rick, Borcade, Guden, they're looking for a bit of action.
And they've definitely found it. Wyver from underneath. Cade still looking to try and make the approach, but no gaps just yet. Cade not even recognizing the fact that he's stumbling over Wyver inside of that cone. Might have caught a glimpse just then when Wyver chose to escape, but Wyver is out for the time being. Reapor Gudenbri, though, now looking to make the collapse. Timo from behind just never had a chance to properly recover there. And this is a fast collapse, but Cade still trying to be careful on the approach. Will finally get a chance to tackle Wyver, and that is a nice three-piece elim opener. And they're not the only ones looking to get the job done there.
Good start. Now, Saren, pumped power. A lot of trios like to play it slow in these moments to kind of pick off an unsuspecting player. Just going through his regular loop path, especially if you kind of put in the work beforehand. A lot of players tend to have habits in their loop path, whether it be like a key part of their drop spot, and being able to kind of wait for one of those paths to actually happen, being there before them. It's a good time to pick up a quick sneaky elimination. Poor Hawa now looking to see to make that happen with the bush. Will they go for those slurp barrels as it could lead to their demise?
It's just so enticing every time. Trap set and bait fully taken there. Kaisers for Hala Masiak with that opening elim. Just want to find the rest of it. Tex come through though with a heavy shot. Masiak will get knocked, but Faded having been eliminated too. That's just going to leave it down to Tex to try and recover, but for Hala, from a separate side, Tex is not going down without a fight here, and for Hala, he's gonna have to work for it, but he will eventually find that final elimination. They'll opt for the double revive play.
That's what they needed, though. They got it. Quickly eliminations, ready to play out this last match. Quicks now. Not looking the best in terms of points, but all it takes is one win. That's what you love about these group stage formats. Even if you had a terrible initial start of the tournament, you could literally make it all up in the last match by winning the game.
We've seen how impactful positioning too can be. I mean, even Fortnite in that last lobby, right, was able to just get so many points hanging out overhead from where everybody else was at. But Sky, Squirrel, Thomas, they know they've still got their work cut out for them. 10th place on the leaderboard heading into this final lobby, and they don't want to leave it up to somebody else to determine their fate. Thomas, Sky, Scroll, they want this battle here at Utopia to go their way. And Relvis, he gets knocked here. That's going to be a huge opportunity for Thomas's team to just immediately swing through. But Fieren still doing what he can to try and push them back. Not wanting to just roll over and give up their current location inside of Utopia.
That's what I love about experienced trios like Thomas, Sky, and Skrill is even if they're literally the cutoff of qualifying, if they go down early, they wouldn't qualify. They're still not scared to look for those fights early on, and you know those key aspects of being able to kind of withstand the early game. They'll look for that damage. They'll look for those eliminations, even if it causes a bit of risk. They're just so confident in each other.
Might also just be a little bit of PTSD there for Thomas too, the amount of times that he's been 1 point off of something. So every point he would know better than anyone in this lobby matters, especially most in these final moments here. But Fortnite, Chino, Pablo Wingu, they had the big performance that everybody had been anticipating. Better late than never, after all, but ideally, they cement their spot on the battle bus with this final lobby.
Crazy how much pistol damage for Doxy has. I wonder why that is compared to all the other players.
He's so good with those kill switch revolvers. It's nasty. He's got like so many clips too. It's definitely fun to watch, but he has a great understanding, I think, of the range as well as just a strong aimer.
Hopefully we can see that happen in the last match, as they are very close to being in qualifying range. I mean, they just need a few points to secure it. Shark, Blaha, and Comeback, on the other hand, need a bit more to be happy with it, so making it to late game is a must for this trio.
This is a pretty crazy look by Pump Power, though, and this is also just the direct result of Wheaton, Afrizia, and Sened qualling from their win in the last lobby. So many other teams now looking to see if they can repeat that success from this location, but we've been rolling around looking for those third parties, and Shark had no chance to try and close that wall off. Now it's down to Comeback and Blaha, but they don't want to fight. You lose your primary fragger, you immediately try to disengage. Blaha might not be able to follow suit, though. Owl's just trying to cut him off in the process, and Blaha will be forced to box. Take a moment here. Snowzy low enough, though, that Blaha will manage to at least create a little bit of space here, but look who's rolling up to this area now. Pablo Wingu and Fordoxi's team. Blaha and Comic won't have any other choice but to bail as deep into zone or storm as they can.
Yeah, it's a good disengagement from Blaha and Comeback. Even though they were able to get a good amount of damage disengaging, they still chose to keep running. They want to play it extra safe here. Bring Shark back into the game. Blaha's gonna have to pick up his teammate now. No whites, but
uns quantos estão morrendo lá safe, velho.
A vending here, so yeah, they will be able to hopefully heal up a little bit, not get a med kit. Look at the other duo though close by, or is it even a full trio?
Think about how much time has been spent now for Blaha and Comeback throughout the course of this whole process. Even with Blaha finding this revive onto Comebacks, if they look to play for the reboot with Shark, it's all going to be them having to focus on just putting those folks back into a steady position. And Bleachco's trio, they might not even allow that opportunity. Comeback, Blaha immediately looking to separate. They could tell there's no way that they can go back now. But Wed, Craig, Bleachco, they might just choose to trail them.
That's the play. We can see how they were able to kickstart this with the quick E-limp. As Rax, Belusi, and Zangi. I don't want to take any risks at 135 points currently. It's difficult when you're in that position, when you're like barely outside of qualifying range and you know all you have to do is make it to the late game and pick up a few eliminations. Oof, so much potential for danger in this last zone with where it's pulling towards.
Easily, but Rax, Belusi, and Zangi seem like they've got some kind of plan figured out here. They're just going to choose to wrap all the way around Outlaw Oasis, kind of using this natural mountain coverage. Makes sense. Don't want to get lit up by teams that are already in those elevated positions inside of the actual zone. Kaisers, Prahala, and Maciak, though, they got scrappy earlier on. Even with those 3 eliminations, they still find themselves kind of getting stuck in some of these long-range battles. But it's all for a good cause. They want to prevent anybody else from kind of challenging their elevated position.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be a little slow from here on out. You can see 65 players left. At this point, a lot of the ones that really needed something big at the start of the game have kind of risked it to play aggressive, and either they got those picks or didn't quite go their way. Storm Surge isn't going to hit as hard as it has in all the previous matches. And players like Thomas, Giant Scroll, that are literally the cutoff of qualifying, have their eyes on the later half of this match. And with having qualified for 23 out of 26 FNCS finals, Thomas HD not only qualifying, but being what we say the most successful player to have yet not won an FNCS. Seeing him not qualify today would be devastating. Levin said it. Don't even think about that possibility yet. Let's see how this game plays out. As for Doxy, Chino, and Pablo are finding a way to put themselves back in.
For Doxy, Chino, and Pablo already know that sure we can try to run this one down, but it's also registered for them that a Siphon could be a great way. They have Medmis to play with, though, so they're not really pressed for time here by any means. They're just kind of trying to keep track of that team on the low ground. But what I really wanted to revisit here, Takata, is that we have teams that are obviously outside. Dandapuzo not yet again. Howley cannot catch a break. Physics, Dandapuzo, and Howley have definitely been getting active, though. 3 elims there for Dandapuzo. The fact that they were even brought back in, they have been clawing their way through the dirt here. Shark and Blaha hoping that they can play off of this reboot, but this might be a devastating result here. Once that double revive comes through, Physics, Dandapuzo, Howley, they're on the move. They've got the audio cue. No, it's been confirmed, but now Shark, he's gonna get picked apart here. Comeback barely gets the chance to land, and it's no good. Only Blaha left standing here. Howley still leading the charge. Doesn't even care that he's nearly lost every single bit of his shield. He knows he's got the numbers advantage here, but Dandapuzo, Howley, they need to find this final elimination. They're gonna play spoiler here for Blaha if they do, but this could be the moment to determine how the rest of this match goes, how the leaderboard shapes up for them too. Blaha gonna dash in, bigger shot to Howley, but he can't finish. And Howley holds his own. This is everything you could possibly ask for if you were in Dandapuzo's position, but you have to feel for Shark, Blaha, and Comeback.
Needed a big pump. I think he was, what, 5, 7, maybe 10 damage away from getting the knock, and if he had that, it would have been a high potential to clutch it out, but nice attempt overall as we switch over to Chino, Doxy, and Pablo, who are also trying to play for the qualification here. It's difficult to know what the cutoff is going to be. It literally could be 168, it could be 200, could be 210. It really depends on who performs in this last match, who qualifies through that victory royale, but what you have to have on your mind is just perform the best you possibly can, and whatever happens, happens.
But for these teams that are kind of two things, Takata, like the teams that are just outside of that top 5 consistency on the leaderboard, and then also the teams that know they have zero chance of getting into that position on the leaderboard. They've got to just play for the win. What do you think would be the biggest determining factor, just from what we've seen here today, for one of those teams to try and get that final hour victory royale?
It's take risks. A lot of those risks, you know, you don't want to take when you're playing for consistency, because obviously it increases your odds of getting eliminated early on. But if you want the win and you want your odds to be higher for that win, you need to have mobility. You need the mist form. You need as many dashes as possible. You need a good amount of materials, a good amount of loot. And for that, you might have to take fights. You might have to go for those eliminations and not just, you know, do a bit of damage here and there. And being able to not only take those risks, but come out on top, have a good amount of loot, and set yourself up in the later half of that mid game to then take the risk once again playing for high ground. It's not easy, but it's what you have to do.
Taking a shot on yourself. But when it matters most, all these players know, especially if you want to be a contender in that grand finals lobby, you just have to find it, dig deep. But for right now, Trulex, Teeny, Svi, they've had a very consistent day. And I think that that's really all they're looking to replicate at this point, Takada. Just spraying teams, making their approach from the back of this edge of zone, doing a lot of good work even at holding some of these teams. I'm sure their surge has got to be looking healthy, and I know one thing that kind of dragged on them in that last lobby was they were having some issues with just being barely above that surge threshold. So it forced them to maybe play inside of the low ground for probably a little bit longer than they were hoping for. But I do think it's interesting that today we have seen wins being forged both from low and high ground.
Yeah, well, luckily enough for this last match, they shouldn't have much to worry about with the zone pull that they just got. Dead center in an elevated position. Now they'll have more than enough option to these players around them. Rotating on in. Kovacs, on the other hand, 93 points. It's going to need to be a big one. Maybe a second place with enough eliminations, but, you know, they kind of have to go all or nothing here.
You still got to build those points off the eliminations. Still got to deal with teams boxed in those elevated positions too. It's not going to be easy to move through this landscape. And sure enough, Kovacs already eating a handful of tags there. Forced to pause, use up one of those shield potions. They do at least have those dash sprite charges to work with. So that could definitely help them cut towards the front side. But it looks like their intentions are definitely to try and stick to low.
Your Sky Scroll and Thomas, I'd be feeling pretty good right now. You just cannot make any grave mistakes. And with the experience this trio has, I'm not really too worried about it, to be fair. Play it by the book here. They don't even need a win. They just need to get a decent placement in this final match. And hopefully none of the trios that are kind of way down below make that risky play that we were talking about previously onto Thomas, Sky, and Scroll.
It's just interesting to see all the different points of elevation that some of these teams are kind of getting stuck inside of. Howley looking to wrap around this mountain face. He only has one charge left though in the mist form. Takada losing that mobility. If they're not able to find a dash right or some other form of movement, things could get very problematic. And considering how far they've come after that start, Takada, it is incredible. Surely they've got to have a little bit of momentum working in their favor.
Surely, right? As I might have spoke too soon, Thomas was cracked, but doesn't seem to be too much of an issue so far. It's almost okay for them to use a bit of extra mobility when they get kind of an unfortunate zone pull like this one. Literally opposite side of the map from where they were based up, so even if they use a lot of the mobility, their goal doesn't necessarily have to be to win this game. It's use all their materials, use all their heals, and get as far as they can with that.
You want to talk about materials? Howley, his extended Puzo, they are suffering currently. They're going to run smack dab into another team, also dealing with firepower. Shots coming out of Perhawa across the water here. Howley, his extended Puzo, though. They've just got to close in on these eliminations. They need the refreshes desperately. They're also below on the damage threshold. Big connection, though, out of Howley. There's going to be a slight difference maker here. 12 above now, so at least won't have to deal with the surge ticks between himself and Dandapuzo. But losing Hizix, now a duo, and they still need a strong finish here if they want to find themselves confirmed. But it's just all falling apart. Dandapuzo now trying to break through this last line of defense into the edge of zone, but hardly any material to work with, breaking over the water. He's having to expend so much of his mats already, and he just can't get inside. Craig immediately forcing them back, and that might just be the end of their run here.
Yeah, getting tagged without having shield, it kind of shows that white tag to your opponent saying, you know what, come fight me. I have no shield right now. You probably have the advantage. And that's exactly what ended up happening. Thomas, though, was able to pick up quick elimination. 155, so they're still probably now even below that cutoff potentially. These other players have been securing a good amount of eliminations, but this is where the pressure's on. This is where all these trios have to make it count. For Hala, have to recuperate a bit of that shield, but still looking healthy enough.
But they've been sticking to that low ground. Surely probably gonna also try and take notice of a team if they do look to base up on height. Maybe look for a later height take, but I want to talk about height. It's all Sky, Scroll, and Thomas HD. They are investing so much material, and for good reason. Very favorable zone pool for right now. It's going to give them a good leverage on the rest of this lobby. Teeny with that medallion, though. Dashing through. Goes by pretty much unnoticed here. And frontside low is now going to be Speed, Trulex, but Chino, Prodoxy, Pablo, they might have something to say. Unfortunately, they got to deal with the rest of the lobby first.
This is not a lobby you want to deal with. 274 above is the good news, though, so they don't have to aggressively look for tags. But if the opportunity presents itself, why not capitalize on it? The issue is, like you mentioned, Taco, 7 builds. Depending on where this zone pulls, they might have to kind of make that risky play. But this is not a position where you want to take risks. Getting ahead quickly here and having your opponents rotate towards you would be ideal.
They're at least getting some good tags. They can tell that there's definitely some issues brewing for those teams a little bit further east from where they were at, but Sky, Scroll, Thomas stuck inside secondary height for right now, certainly seeming to have intentions to go back to their height control, but until then, Mithrofan, Chuck, Azat, they'll be the ones looking to spray down. And Pablo Prodoxy Chino still inside of the low, but under so much stress. Audi just runs smack dab into Halloween shotgun, though. That is a big pickup here for Prodoxy and Chino. The refresh they all needed.
Massive pump, putting them back in the game now. Able to recuperate those dashes, able to heal themselves back up. All they have to do is continue playing ahead. 189 points. Where will the cutoff end? Is now up above. High ground continuing to be uncontested. Kaiser's doing what he can to push themselves up that leaderboard. 177 might not be enough. They still have to get the job done.
It might boil down to a difference of elimination points here. Sky, Scroll, Thomas, all they want is the front side. And they'll deal with the rest after the fact, but Sky continuing tarp out a little bit here. Teeny, Speed, Trulex, they've definitely been focused, and Teeny is just gonna sit inside, wait for his teammates to provide opportunity to break out. Azan and Chuck now, though, just looking for a double revive. It's late, but they're gonna get away with it because nobody else is up here on height to do anything about it.
This is actually huge for them. They need the win if they want to end up qualifying, and they're getting closer and closer. The issue is now is going to be the time where these trios that are second height start to kind of look up and say, is there a possible retake in our grasp? As Pablo, Fred, and Chino trying to get into the 200-point range, they're going to use the bird to get up ahead, but the issue is so many players are out of match, so many players are falling down low, but Pablo, he does not care. He picks up another huge elimination coming through as they continue to power on through.
Thomas just got the rank up, but it doesn't matter. We'll have to wait and see whether or not they were able to clutch up enough points to keep themselves inside the consistency, but Pablo, Prodoxy, Chino, they're just breaking through these low ground pre-existing builds. Gonna shift up one layer, and now Prodoxy, Chino, and Pablo, they're looking to pick apart some of this mid-section. Teeny, Speed, and Trulex, though, happily still in control of the front side. They're going to tank a little bit of the Storm Ticks even just to make sure that they have the optimal positioning. And Pablo has a solo from behind. Sees Zangi, can't spot out Sure. Running around is just vision so limited inside of that med mist. And all of these players way more fixated on just getting into zone.
Pablo, the MVP of the trio today. He's clutched out so many points as a solo, and now in the final match, looking to do it once again. Show us why you deserve this qualification. ends up going down. They got more than 200 points as Giras, Dynus, and Frantic. They took height.
Hawa wasn't able to stick it out on the low ground. Sangil, Loki, and QB inside the secondary height now. This could be a real shining opportunity here, but they are low on material. They have to hope that the lobby continues to thin itself out, but with Frenek and Dinas up above, it's going to be very difficult for these teams on low if they don't have builds to work with. Team on height could just completely take advantage of it, but Sangil, Loki, QB, they're trying to get involved. It's Trulex just in front on the low, and they can't get through the builds. They're forced to use the misform early, and that's gonna leave them so exposed to Teeny coming through with big pump shots.
Full healthy trio down below. Sangil goes down. Looks like it's gonna be a 3 versus 3 height versus low. As Frenek, Giras, and Dynus, they go down. Dynus with a big elimination now. All that's left is the full trio. Teeny gets cracked. One more shot needed to connect. Don't miss. He gets it now. The 2 versus 1. The mist form being used. The escape route coming through, trying to block the siphon from Skivi. He does not want to let him get more HP, and that might be all that it takes to take this home as Trulex is left in the heal off, uses that mist form to not take storm damage, and now with a double chug, it's a heal game for this last match that Group 1.
What does Giras have to work with? He's still got that med kit. 40 left in the chug jug. Misform still able to be used too. Trulex, he's running out of time and he knows it. Giras and Trulex popping these chug jugs at basically the exact same moment, but it's Giras who's running out of HP first. Trulex's Misform getting that refresh back online, and he's able to close it out. But Takada, I'm thinking about the implications right now for the leaderboard, because we saw so many of our teams just on the cusp, and with a team that was already leading inconsistency, now finding a victory royale in our final lobby, that might just save a couple others down below.
I'm getting nervous. Taco. Look, the first and second place trio, Giras' trio, Teeny's trio, they were already in the top of the standings in terms of consistency. So they showed why that was with how consistent they just played in this last match. But I'm thinking in the back of my head, did Thomas make it? Did all these players, did Fredoxy make it? Did these players that were on that borderline make it? We'll focus on Trulex, ended up clutching it up. Mist form put into play, doing a perfect example of how you want to play heal off in this current meta, making use of not only the heals, but also that invincibility from the mist form. But I know everybody watching wants to know what happened, who qualified through consistency. It has been a pleasure commentating this initial group. We still have 2 more groups to go, but that's going to be it for Taco and myself on the casting group for now. We'll be back for Group 2 and 3, but we have to close this out on the desks of Frankie, Levin, Mini.
Thank you so much to Carter and Taco. I don't know how you're holding it together in that end game there, because I was just racking my brain going, okay, right, who's still in the top 10, who's just outside the top 10? Obviously, you want someone who is in that top 10 to get that victory royale, right? And of course, it went the way of Trulex's trio, a trio that actually, in the pre-show today, we had the biggest doubts about. They scraped through into the group stage, 97th in the play-ins, Levin. But now they're clearly a team that can pull things together when it matters most.
Look, barely made it in, barely make it out. I mean, it is the runaway job, mini minor, for these boys, but they will absolutely take it.
Yeah, they'll be happy with this. All that matters is getting there. And as we spoke about at the beginning of the show, these guys have so much talent. They have so much ability within the team that they can pop off when it comes to these major finals. When it comes to lands, they can do what it takes to perform well. And it's just about getting there. For Trulex, it couldn't have ended in a more sort of fitting way for him. We know him as the sort of heal-off king when it comes to the medkit specifically. And he showed us yet again what he can do when it comes to those situations.
I mean, really nice way to wrap up the day for that team. Again, they have plenty to work on going into the major finals. Groups are always a different beast, but to make it out, decent performances, quite consistent on the day as well at times. I think they'll be happy with the result today.
Let's take a look at the 5 teams who did book themselves a spot in the Major 3 finals via a victory royale. Obviously, we've just seen our 5th team to win, Trilux, Teeny, and Scree. But if you cast your minds back to the beginning of the show, Vanya, Marius, and Pixie, it was just a textbook classic game from those guys.
Yeah, really, really well played. Honestly, I almost forgot they played in this lobby, man. They did it so quickly. They were in and out, and now we're probably just not even going to have a chance to watch them play or do anything now until Grand Finals. But it's fine. They're going to be a major force. They are reigning champs for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
We know exactly what to expect from them, Mini. That's the thing. But Vidil, Cringe, and Volko, we were not so sure going into this one, given Vidil's shock departure from Savage and Reason last season.
Yeah, I was going to say, really impressed with how these guys played actually today. You know, we had a few questions going into it. I know I had a few questions about how they were going to play, how they were going to approach the games, and they seemed to be really, really comfortable down there on low ground, finding eliminations, finding frags. Looked like a solid, proper team. So really excited to see what these guys can do come the Major Finals.
It's also really exciting to see this format reward some of those teams who just like find that kind of lightning bolt that they need in game. So Hyper, Ghost, and Jewel, they took our 3rd game of the day. And yes, Levin, you say that this is a team of players who've been playing a long time, but they don't necessarily have that much major finals experience. Now we're going to get to see what they can do in a fully stacked lobby in a couple of weeks' time. However, who else is going to be joining them there? We're ready to take a look at our consistency leaderboard and find out the other 5 trios to qualify. For Doxy, Pablo, and Tino, they just managed to pull things off in the end because it actually looked kind of tough for them. Gyros, Frenex, Dinas, we're expecting that consistency. But if you cast your eyes down to the 5th place, Loki, Zangild, and Raw just about managed to clutch it mini minor, and it means that there's big names missing out.
Yeah, there's one big name missing out. It's Thomas AC, man. It's Thomas AC not quite making it happen. I mean, you look at a leaderboard like that, and you usually look at the top. You're like, oh, who's done the... I was looking right at the bottom. I was looking at that 5th place spot. Was it going to contain Thomas, Sky, and Scroll? It doesn't. They're going to have to do it through the last chance qualifier. Not ideal situation for them. So, yeah. Really unfortunate.
Levin, you can take a look at their games though. You can see what they need to work on, and there is the last chance qualifier coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's something we fully expect them to do well in. Although there are going to definitely be some big names that they're up against for those last 3 spots.
Yeah, I mean, this team is more than good enough to be in the major finals. You know, it's a tough situation for them. They absolutely should be there. Bit unlucky on the day, and then you know it happens. But I have no doubts there'll be a team that really pushes in that last chance qualifier.
It's just really unfortunate that it's 11th. It's just one place again, but let's move on and just talk a bit more about the teams that have made it today as well. Brajawa, Kaiser, and Magic, they had some fantastic games, a couple of unlucky moments, but are you excited about the potential for this trio going into that final, Mini?
Yeah, super excited. They had a couple of wobbles during this tournament, but they made it count there in that last game. So, you know, they're a team that can clutch up. Seemingly, they have the potential for it. So, intrigued as to what those guys can do when it comes to the major finals as well.
And we mentioned Gyros' trio with Frenak and Dinas. We were expecting those guys to do well, given that these guys have got so much experience of doing well in the group stage. Consistent